Good morning, everybody. This picture Austin's here from Stanford Dane to explain it up.
Good morning, colleagues. I think we have quite a number of us have joined, so I think let's just give them extra 2 minutes. The colleagues that have not joined us, I think we can be able just to resume around 9:05. I think that's a reasonable time. Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you,
Yes.
Tabile.
All right. Thank you for confirming that.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think we can proceed. I'm not sure if Ramba we can be able to Kato can be able to see if all the speakers are here. But other than that, I think we have quite a number of people. At least around 115, which I think is a relatively a good number. Um, Colleagues, let me take this time and the opportunity to greet you all for being able to make time and join us for this Poultry Information Day. I surely assume that it should be a good one based on the topics that need to be covered and also the lineup of the speakers whom managed to make in the time to join us, given all the busy schedule for all of us. Talking to you right now, it is Tabile Ngunjana. That is my name. I am an economist from the Trade Research Unit, where I work as an economist under the Research and Economic Market Center of the NAMC. I will be facilitating this meeting. At least, hopefully, everything is gonna go well as far as the connections. We have issues with the load shedding and also forth, but hopefully, it won't be as an issue. Um, and I believe that we will be able to learn and be able to sort of, gain a lot of experience based on the the speakers that have been brought in. So the good thing about this topic, it is coming at a time when we are talking about still the impact that we have received, or at least observed, from at least of late 2023 to coming to this year. So I think it's timely that we talk about this topic, and also given a lot that is happening from the industry and also from the global space as at large, because South Africa is an economy that is open to some of these things, and small at that. It tends to be impacted by some of the issues that happened, especially from the influential countries as far as economies, buying powers, and so forth. So I think we are at a good time to be able to be talking about this topic, and I recently seen some developments also. So I hope that some of those will be covered, by what we're gonna be talking about today, without any wasting of time, because I feel like we are still within the time of doing the remarks and opening up of this whole information day. I've seen Miss Kwamanda is here. He's just gonna be giving us some remarks as far as this information day, and also we have the lineup from the general manager from the poultry part of things. Dr. Abongile Balarane is managed to join us, and we have Dr. Romito from the ARC, Klerk from the department. At least that's the first part of this analysis before the break that we'll take. The break that we'll have is going to be around 11:30 to 10. So I think we have quite a very fruitful day ahead of us. Without any wasting any time, it's only a few seconds before your actual time, Ms. Kwamanda. Are you able to give us your remarks in terms of how this day is intended for, and also just to give your remarks as in terms of the topic that you're going to be talking about, Ms. Kwamanda?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then please, madam, go ahead and just take a podium. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Nonhlanhla Kwamanda from the NAMC. I am with the Agribusiness Development Unit. I've just switched on my video for the benefit of the colleagues who might not know how I look like, and this is how I look like. And I'm gonna switch off my camera. Colleagues, the NAMC is as a state entity is committed towards the development of the sector, in particular the smallholder farmers. And the organization is doing this in collaboration with the industries, the private sector, and all the other state entities around. So we don't do this alone. And I'm happy to say we've had a good working relationships with the poultry industry in supporting some of our farmers, and we note their contribution as well, and we highly appreciate them. And we appreciate every stakeholder within the poultry sector that we have collaborated with towards supporting the farmers all over the country. The challenges facing the poultry farmers are an obvious case to all of us. And as the NAMC, we've had a first-hand experience while working with some of the poultry farmers, where some of their challenges were the biosecurity issues, load shedding being one of the contributing factors towards their challenges. I don't even want to start talking about the avian flu. I'm very much happy and relieved that today we are having this conversation, and I'm hoping that after this workshop, we will be having a way forward on how we are going to assist the farmers, because the situation out there is not looking good. We've heard poultry farmers calling us saying their chickens are dying and they desperately need the market, and that means for them taking their livelihoods being affected and being taken away. So hopefully this workshop is going to be able to help us pave a way forward of how we can assist the farmers and how we can make sure that their livelihoods are not affected by the challenges that are currently facing the sector in general. So with those few words, colleagues, from the NAMC, I would like to say we welcome you all and we are looking forward to further engagements, and feel free to share your experiences and also help us come up with a way forward and strategies that will assist the poultry farmers in general. And thank you so much, Chairperson.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Commander. Appreciate the remarks. So this is what is going to happen, colleagues, in terms of the presentation. So there is 20 minutes allocated to each of the presenters. So from that 20 minutes, we're gonna give 10 to 12 minutes of the presentation itself, and then we can be able to have at least 5 to 7 minutes for just for the discussions and all that. So the first person that is gonna be presenting is gonna be Dr. Abongile Balarane as an introduction. He's from the poultry industry. He's general manager from the egg part of the poultry sector in South Africa. Doc, I'm not sure if you are ready for your presentation. I see that we are running a little bit earlier, which I think is a good thing. We can be able to project from your end. Kindly let us know and then do so, and then we can proceed with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Just to confirm, can you hear my voice loud and clear?
It's all good, Doc.
Okay, no, thanks. I've got a problem with my connections this side. Okay. Are you able to see the presentation, Chair?
Yes, Doc. It's all clean here.
Okay, no, thanks. Thanks for this opportunity. I've just switched on the camera just to show my face to the colleagues who don't know me. I'm Abongile Balarane, and I'm responsible for the layer industry of the South African Poultry Association. But today, I'll be covering surely some of the issues that cut across also to the broiler industry. But the broiler industry is led by my colleague Isaac Breidenbach. Kindly please excuse the language that I'll be using if I mention issues like black farmers. I refer to the smallholder farmers. If I speak about issues of white farmers, I refer to the commercial farmers. So I'm not trying to trigger any conflict, but that is the easiest term that we use at SAPA to distinguish between the two systems. Please stop me at any given time if I happen to break. Can I please switch off the camera now so that I can have smooth connections? Thanks, colleagues. Yeah, thanks. Rambau asked me to come today and speak about the avian influenza in the egg industry. I must say, as you can see from the picture that I've put there, one might think it's people having some time or nice time in the Durban beach or the Cape Town beach or East London. But that is the reality of what we've seen as an industry last year because of the H5 and the H7 avian influenza strains. Over and above that, we were already a suffering industry in terms of the feed cost, the prices of electricity, the diesel cost that we use for the backup generators. So I must say 2023 actually was a very, very tough year for the, I'll say, broader poultry industry. But we've suffered some of the, serious knocks on the layer industry.
Sorry, Doc. Colleagues, please kindly mute your other gadgets. Thank you. You may proceed, Doc. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Yeah. So over and above, under normal circumstances, we have about 27 million layer hens that gives us eggs on a daily basis in South Africa for the entire population. And probably 90 to 98% of those eggs are actually consumed locally in South Africa. And then we export small quantities to Botswana, to Swaziland, Mozambique, and Lesotho. What happened last year is that normally we are used to a strain called the H5N1 avian influenza, which normally starts around March, April, and usually it will be in the system until around, October, September, up to November. But surprisingly, last year around July, we then picked up a new strain called the H7. Now, this is the devastating strain that really caused a lot of, I'll say, pains to the industry. Out of the 27 million layer hens that we have on a daily basis, about 6 million were culled as part of the, control measures, since this is the notifiable disease. Over and above that 6 million that we have culled, we estimate that there was also another 3 million that was put under quarantine. Now, with the H7, it appeared that it behaves differently as compared to the H5. Some of the birds were able to recover or survive, the bird flu. So those birds were actually put under quarantine. I'm not going to talk a lot about the issues of quarantine. I take note of Dalrat, Dr. Grietjie is here. I'm sure you will cover that. She will cover that part. But what has this done to us as an industry? Of course, because of the supply and demand and the number of birds that we lost in 2023, we started to see the egg prices, shooting up, the ceiling prices we've never seen before. Now, in terms of the split that we have, I've got the graded eggs and then and also ungraded eggs, and that we will get into the trade, and of course, in different sizes of all those eggs. Now, if we look in terms of from the three production systems that we have, the cage system, the barn, and the free range, both the graded and ungraded eggs, which are displayed by this figure here, the prices of all eggs increased from 17 rand 73 cents per dozen in 2022 to 22 rand 93 cents per dozen in 2023. This was about 29% increase. On average, these prices for graded eggs and also ungraded eggs, they increased with about 29 and 31% respectively. And then in terms of the number of eggs that were sold, most of the eggs, about 82%, they were graded eggs, which is down from the previous year of about close to 83%. So that is how the situation looked like in terms of the prices, because of the number of the birds that we've lost as an industry. If I move the next slide. Now, if we compare the split between the retail price and the producer price, I must say, as the producers or the farmers, we are actually the price takers, and I'm aware of the inquiry from the Competition Commission. We'll talk about that one probably later on also. If we look at the split between the producer price and the retail price, as reported by Stats SA, we've seen a price of 37 rand per dozen at the retail price, and then this was an annual increase of about 3.7%, and giving up an estimated retail markup of 63% in the year 2023 for the retailers. Now, if you look into the past 5 years, the average markup on large eggs alone that was made by the retailers, it was above 100%, which confirms my statement that I've indicated that us as the producers were actually the price takers in terms of this business. If we look at the comparison now of the prices of eggs with the other animal protein sources, as much as we were hit by this avian influenza and the prices of eggs have hit the ceiling, which were the record prices ever seen in South Africa, the eggs retain their position as the most affordable animal protein source when we compare to the beef, the pork, and the chicken. And I must say, the price that you see for eggs, it was very closer to the price of a chicken per kg. and also not very far from pork per kg. So it shows that indeed there was a really challenge in terms of this avian influenza, and of course the strain on the supply side in the trade. Of course, now if I look in terms of the day-old pullets that we place now, one question that has been coming throughout this AI situation was that from the lost capacity of 6 million birds that were culled and the other 3 million that is under quarantine, which eventually will also need to be disposed at some stage. How long will it take us as an industry to recover that lost production? Now, if you start everything from scratch, from the day old, from hatching the eggs up to a day old pullet, all the way down to an 18-year-old weak point of lay, that part of the value chain takes us all anything between 17 to 18 months. Now, what we have done now as an industry, we started because part of our production was hit from the breeding side of things. And of course, many of the birds, the 6 million was more on the commercial birds. So we started to import, some of the fertilized eggs, which were placed, I think sometime late last year. So the imports were more around 2-point-something million fertile eggs that were imported, which were placed. Then the day-old pullets now placed in 2023, it dropped from the beginning of the year. We knew that we will have a decline in terms of our production. Then the avian influenza hit us, which then made the situation to be more severe for the industry. The production for 2023, we started with a very low sort of flock size. And of course, AI came on board also. We had an average of cases produced per week of around 397,000, which is about 64,000 decrease or 14% decrease from the previous year. Now, the total egg production amounted to about 20 million cases, or about 621 million dozens that were produced in 2023. Under normal circumstances, we produce about 780 million dozens a year from the 27 million birds that we normally have in South Africa. Spoke about other challenges besides the avian influenza, the feed, the electricity, the cost of diesel for backup generators. Now, the feed prices on average in 2023, they increased by 5.2%. We've seen a ton of around 6,000 per ton. This followed a 19% increase from the previous year. Now, mindfully, these prices I didn't include. I have excluded medication and other things, including the VAT. So, in terms of producing an egg in South Africa for a farmer, all those variable costs to a farmer amounted to anything between 70 and 75%.
Mami ko pa wala hakwana kayo.
Sorry, Doc. Colleagues, can you please make sure that your phones and other stuff that you're using is switched off? This is going to delay us. Always just talk for that. Can you please kindly resume your presentation? Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. In terms of the feed prices, we've seen layer feed prices increasing by 5.2% to anything around 6,000 per ton. This followed a 19.8 or 20% increase the previous year. Now, this price didn't include the VAT and other medications. But over and all, even above, if we estimate the cost of producing an egg by a farmer, the feed, the electricity, the diesel, also labor, you're looking at anything between 70 and 75% of the variable costs that are to produce an egg for a producer. What also came interesting, What also came interesting, we also track the consumption of eggs in South Africa. And I must say, within the African space, we consume anything between 40 to 50 eggs per person or per capita a year. South Africa, we're are still above that 40 to 50 as compared to the rest of Africa. We're sitting between 140 to 150 under normal circumstances. Now, if you look into countries like the Mexicans, the Colombians, which have a similar set of an economy like South Africa, those countries are consuming anything between 390 to 400 per capita in terms of their eggs. One of the biggest, wishes for us as an egg industry of South Africa, in terms of ensuring that we cater or grow the industry, in a very inclusive manner. Of course, not neglecting the transformation topic. We always believe that if we could be able to drive consumption of eggs in the country, we will be able also to open new opportunities for the Black developing farmers. So that's part of our strategy in our master plan. But in terms of our consumption, it slightly dropped in 2023 because of the prices also that were reaching the ceiling. So there was that split or shift in terms of the consumer preference between the eggs, and the other parts of the chicken or the poultry. Now, if I look in terms of the trade, a bulk of our eggs, I've indicated they go to countries like Mozambique, Eswatini, and I must say Botswana, as they do take processed products from us in the form of liquid and powder, but we are banned from exporting shell eggs to Botswana. Botswana doesn't take eggs from us, fresh shell eggs. We've seen many countries within the region closing their borders or putting trade bans to South Africa due to the avian influenza situation. But over and above that, in terms of the value of the exports that we did last year for both the liquid and powder eggs, or let me say processed products, including fertilizer eggs, that actually dropped by I think around 27% from 365 million that we did in 2022 to about 265 million in 2023. Of course, that was driven by the issue of the borders or the bans, the trade bans. Most of our product landed into Mozambique, Eswatini, Botswana, and all these three countries actually received anything about around 95% of the product that came from us. The imports. If I look into the import side of things, I did indicate that we imported quite a number of eggs, fertile eggs, excuse me, for hatcheries last year. That is why you see now the total value of our imports increased by almost 270% from, in terms of the rand value, from 112 million to 414 million. This was because the bulk of the eggs that we imported, they were fertilized eggs, and also we did import quite a number or tons of processed products in the form of liquid and powder. Now, it was part of our strategy to do those imports because at some stage when there was the scarcity of eggs in the trade, we said as an industry, we took a decision that we're not, if I use the right term, we are not going to waste eggs, fresh shelled eggs, in terms of breaking them and process them into liquid and powder. So what we did was to import a lot of liquid and powder for industrial purposes, your bakeries and some of the catering services. So we imported that product and replaced all the eggs that were supposed to go to processing, the local eggs for processing. Then we channeled back those eggs back to the retailers. Hence, we had a better, I'll say, better festive season last year. There were eggs available. And over and above that, the prices that hit the ceiling also played a favor on our side because there was that buffer stock because producers were not, responding fairly to those prices. So there was that buffer stocks that were building up in some of the, I'll say, pack stations. So around December time, we then started to run a lot of promotions. We've seen a lot of promotions from different retail stores. Now that has assisted us to go through the festive season, and hence now you've probably realized that some of the shelves that were empty started to fill up is because of this situation of these imports that we did, and also the price that was not responding well. How long will it take us, to get back to normal? In terms of the point of lays that are scarce now in the industry, it has been confirmed by all the three breeding companies that at least we should be back around June, July in terms from the breeding side of things. But we're still working within that 17, 18 months period. I'm sure now we're probably talking about anything between 11 to 12 months for us to get back to where we were before the avian influenza. Usually this AI, as I've indicated, starts around March, April, in terms of the movement of the wild birds. We're starting to pick it up from the early warning system. We are very closer to April. Of course, there will be that panic in the industry. We don't know what will happen this year, but we are hoping that at least we will have a fairly year ahead as an industry. There are discussions that are taking place between us and government in terms of a possibility to vaccinate. The H5 vaccines have been approved for use in South Africa. However, the H7 vaccines are still not yet approved for use in South Africa. And over and above that, between the discussions we've been having with government, we now have the protocols for biosecurity and also for exemption, which were also published by DALRAD sometime last year around November. So there are systems in place. It's a matter of time, for us to start vaccinating. And I can confirm that at this stage, there's not been any farmer that has been approved to vaccinate for both strains in South Africa. Now, if I zoom or I focus what will probably happen in 2024, it appears that our national flock size will actually be at the region of around 17 to 18 million birds, depending on what will come in terms of the point of lays around June, July. If those point of lays come to the trade, probably will sit at the flock size of anything above 20 million, but I don't see us getting to 27 million as we were, HPAI times. But we are hoping as an industry we'll start to get the vaccines, used or rolled out in South Africa. I've just put this slide, Chairperson, for just the benefit of the colleagues. There's been a lot of pressure recently apart the avian influenza, the well-known load shedding story, the prices of feed and the diesel. One of the biggest challenges we've been getting also recently as an industry, which it's becoming very tough, to farm in South Africa, is the welfare groupings in terms of their push and their persistence for South Africa to consider cage-free systems. Many countries we know, within the egg, let's say the World Egg Society, probably about 60 to 65% of the global eggs are produced by the BRICS countries. And us being the part of the BRICS countries, South Africa, our stance has been, the same as our counterparts in China, in Brazil, and India, that we will produce eggs based on the affordability of the consumers. So all the three existing production systems in South Africa, our view as an industry is that they must remain in place. And then based on the affordability of a consumer, as a consumer, you should have a choice to choose which eggs you wish to purchase when you get to a store, whether it's a free range, whether it's a barn, or whether it's a cage-produced egg. Now, in terms of our production systems, 95% of our eggs are still produced under the normal cage systems. Now, we will continue with these systems as an industry as long as the situation of the South African, economy is still remaining the way it is, and we should all know that the economy in recent years has not been doing very well. So for us, it's practically impossible for producing eggs that we know won't have that appetite from the consumer side of things, but we will change with time as the situation improves over the years. That brings me to the end of my presentation, Chairperson, and once again, thanks for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Appreciate it. That was quite very informative. I appreciate the fact that you also mentioned something that is very critical recently, the issue of the production systems across not necessarily the poultry industry, but even other the welfare related issues. I'm aware of what you just talked about in terms of how the egg production and all of that. Also, this is escalating is beyond the poultry, but that's not something we're going to talk about today. Colleagues, let me say, I will give you this opportunity to ask questions. I know you must have some burning questions to ask on this. Unfortunately for me, and because I'm also on the road, what I will suggest is that we take, let's say, 4 questions. We will take 4 questions out of all this. That is going to be our first round, and then from there we will take a second round, and then that is going to be based as well on the appetite from the colleagues to talk about this. Ladies and gents, on the call, I'm gonna give you this opportunity to recognize any of you that might have a question. Can Mr. Rambau assist me with the hands that are gonna be raised by the other colleagues? Because as I said, that I can't be able to look at that, and then just gonna take 4. Mr. Rambau, do we have any hands?
Thank you, Chairperson. There's a hand from Valencia. Valencia, you can go ahead, followed by Celo and Joel and Gabriel.
In that order, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Rambau. Valencia. I'm not sure if the first person is having issues, but if then there's an issue, we can go to the second person and then she can come back. The next person, please.
Good morning, everyone. Just a question to the doctor. In terms of the 17 million plus laying eggs hens that you mentioned, where are they predominantly sitting? Are they sitting commercially, or do you include some of the platformers as you categorized earlier? The second question, maybe you can answer them together, is your free range versus organic. What's the difference in a nutshell? Thank you.
Colleagues, can you hear the speaker? I'm not sure if it's my network.
I'm here. Yes, I'm not sure, Chairperson, whether do you want me to take all the questions or should I respond one-on-one? But I'll prefer to take all of them.
Yes, let's take all of them, Doc, and then you can just respond at once, please.
Joel, can you please open your mic? You are muted.
Okay, good morning. I just wanted to find out when it comes, okay, the other question already has been, the other question which I heard has been already asked by the previous speaker. And then the other question which I do have is, I only hear you guys, we talk about, I think this is chicken eggs only. But when we talk about poultry and eggs, isn't also, I just wanted to find out about that, the duck eggs and guinea fowls, are they not eggs? Are they not also being sold on our market? So it's just a question which I need to know, because preferably, as you were talking about that, comparing ourselves in Asia, because they consume, even Europe, they do consume duck eggs a lot. So I need to know, where are we in South Africa regarding this kind of market? Thank you.
The third, can you go for the third person, please?
Gabriel, please go ahead.
Good morning, farmers. Good morning, doctor. I wanted to check with you about incorporating small farmers, especially HRA, in this program of bringing the poultry poultry production in how do you say this, in instability. I mean, we don't have access to good quality eggs. We are always running at a loss. Our hatch rates are very, very bad. How do we get help with that? Thank you.
Rakoma, please go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, the program director. My question to SAPA is, when sexing the day-old layers, what happens to the cocks? The one like you when they sex from the hatcheries, they say these ones are the layers, the females ones, and then the male ones. What happens to them? And then how do they dispose the male ones? Because we end up having the male cocks penetrating the broiler market, of which they start to scam us. So I want to understand, how do they dispose them? Who's in charge of saying, okay, these are the cocks, and they're supposed to be disposed, and they say, well, indeed they are disposed, so that they do not penetrate the broiler day-old market. Thank you.
I see Mufokeng, Chairperson, and then I see Iksan.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Irshan. I'm in Cape Town. We've got a group here that's very much in the niche market. That is the quail. And we are farming with the quail as meat as well as the eggs. Just let me know, because of this niche market, the eggs of the quail, is there a market available that you can actually export or distribute nationally? That's the first thing. And then also, is there any associations, poultry associations right here down here in Cape Town for niche markets perhaps? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm done.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
I've got your question, Gabriel, where you're asking about the niche markets in Western Cape. Can I take the last one, Chairperson, so that I can respond to these ones?
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, listeners and farmers. The question which I have, Doctor, is regarding the rolling out of the vaccines. How will it reach small-time farmers? Where can we find the vaccines, and when exactly should we expect the approval of them and the rolling out? Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Let me respond to this first set of the questions before I lose all of them. Starting with the last one, the rolling out of the vaccines. I've got Dr. Grietjie from Dalrat here. Without burning the bridges, we are in discussion with government in terms of trying to fine tune the protocols that were published last year by Dalrat. In the current format of the protocols, it is a bit difficult to implement them. So there are those weekly discussions between the industry and Dalrat to sort of work on those protocols. Timeframes in terms of ensuring the vaccines are rolled out, I wouldn't wish to say next week or next month, but the right way to say it, as soon as both parties, DALRAT and SAPA, are satisfied with the protocols, and of course the H7 vaccines, once they're also approved for use, I'm sure we'll start to have that process rolling out. But for the H7 vaccines, there were some few applications done by a few companies, so I think those applications are open for H5 vaccines. Of course, DALRAT will have to make a determination in terms of approving who's eligible to be approved or not. But the protocols are there which guide in terms of what you need to adhere to as a producer when you want to apply for those, apply for the vaccines. Smallholder producers, our stance as an industry has been that if we vaccinate, our wish is to ensure that the vaccines are inclusive for everyone, whether you're a small black farmer or white commercial farmer, you should be able to be protected or use the vaccines. And that is the stance from the industry, which hasn't changed. And over and above that, our position has been that the vaccines, at least in terms of the cost, they should at least be affordable for everyone that intends to use the vaccines. But those are things that we're still negotiating with DALRAT. I'm going to try to be all over these questions. The one was from Silo, from the 17 million commercial birds that we have indicated, how much is the shareholding of the black producers? So how does it include the black producers? Yes, it includes the black producers. And I must say, whether we're 27 million birds or we're at 17 million, the current shareholding of black farmers is between 7 and 8% in terms of what's in the hands of the black farmers and the split between the white and commercial. Is it an issue? It's an issue that we are addressing through our master plan, the egg master plan. In the master plan, we've got clear sort of guidelines that in order for us to move from the current 6 to 8% shareholding of black producers, our wish is that by 2030, at least the industry, 30% should be in the hands of the black producers. We've put a lot of proposals in our egg master plans, which they're sitting with government. We speak about whenever there's a white commercial farmer that is in the market, we're talking about white existing and well-maintained farms. We've said at any given time, we have those requests from white farmers who wants to sell their businesses. So if there are black producers in those areas, pick an area, KwaZulu-Natal, and there's a white commercial farmer wants to sell the farm, we said at least if that farm could always be replaced by a black producer using the blended finance instruments that are there, as SAPA will do all the assistance in terms of the business plans, the EIA, the water licenses. It's work that we've always been doing on our transformation agenda. And we spoke about in our master plan, if we could export some of the eggs, because there are times that we'll have many eggs in the trade or in South Africa. If we could start exporting the surplus eggs, in doing so, we'll also open an opportunity for the black developing farmers. Over and above that, we speak of encouraging consumption from the current 150 per capita. Our wish is to push it to 200 to 20 by 2030. In doing so, that increase in demand, it will also create an opportunity to ensure the black producers, they also grow inclusively in the process. So those are the things that are in our master plan. And that's the difference between free range and organic. A free range egg, it's egg that is produced, by chickens that are out there, that are not on cages. But the honest truth, there's in terms of the product itself. Let's speak about the product, not the production system. There are no much differences, in fact, in those two products, except the fact that in a cage-produced eggs, in most instances, you are likely to get an egg that is clean or that is not contaminated outside of the shell and all that. But it's the same egg. There's no much difference in that product. The market for duck eggs and guinea fowls, that's more on the broiler side. The duck meat, I think we see the duck meat as more of it's a premium product. If I can say, not speaking on behalf of the broiler industry, but we do have duck members at SAPA or duck producers. It sounds like that's a premium market that is growing in South Africa. But in terms of the duck eggs, we are not seeing a sort of a growth in consumption of those eggs in South Africa. I think could be also the issue of the prices or in the manner in which the product has been marketed, but it hasn't penetrated that much in South Africa. Small farmers, hatcheries, with the possibility of bringing some stability, hatcheries receiving very bad eggs. I think that was the question. Yeah, in terms of the hatcheries, it is something that we are also starting to encourage in our egg master plan. I think previously in our master plan was more of growing the industry. It recently came to our attention that in fact within the value chain there's still a gap from the hatchery side of things and also the rearing part of things. So these are the new projects that we've also incorporated in our egg master plan. But at this stage, I cannot say, or confirm the fact that there's bad eggs, coming from these hatcheries. But if they are, we are open for further discussions and we'll probably try to assist where we can. The sexing of day-old, the males, what do we do with the males? So I think what normally happens from those males, they get to be macerated, which is one of the programs that the NSPCA has at least approved for the industry to do. I'm not sure how we can stop that to ensure those eggs they're not entering the broiler market, but it's something that we can take up as an industry and discuss at our board level and see how best we can assist there. Niche market in the Western Cape. To this stage, I'm not certain about that product and the markets in the Western Cape, but it's something that we can also look into. Or maybe I can research and ask within the members. We are welcome for further discussions. We will drop our email here on the chat room, so we can do the follow-up on those other questions. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I appreciate the comments and answering the questions. I'm not sure if there are some follow-up questions, but I think until then, let's take a second round of hands. Mr. Rambau, you will assist me again on that. Should there be no follow-up questions, but please, colleagues, for the ones that had questions earlier on, kindly lower your hand so that we can be able to easily locate the new hands. Mr. Rambau, I'm seeing some highlights of some hands. Please take another round of 4. We are running out of time. Thank you.
Mr. Mufukeni, please go ahead.
Yeah, and then I was getting calls non-stop, emails from China.
Okay.
My apology, Chair. I was not raising the hand.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Cynthia, followed by Ketiwe, Ngobani, Shanga, and Lindiwe, in that order. Thank you.
Okay, Chair, I think you forgot Cynthia. Cynthia, I think you're the first one.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Doc, for that, because I think he's having issues with network. Is she still up?
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cynthia. I'm from Zirbekom in Johannesburg. Yeah, I just want to add on. I think someone spoke about the duck eggs, but I don't know whether people are not recognizing them as eggs or the market is not there. I would like to say, as a small scale farmer, here in Zirbekom. I'm raising the Muscovy ducks. I think I've got 400 of them at the moment. And they're laying eggs, and the market, this side is booming for the Muscovy eggs, and the people are starting to recognize the health part of them, and they are really buying them. So I think if there are any other ducks producers, we can do something about them because they are healthy. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, sister. I think that is a very interesting one. It will be nice to see a follow-up doc. I'm sure this is something that you understand.
Yeah, you said you are going to post what, an email. I think I'll have a chat there to to expand on what I've already started the conversation with as far as the duck eggs are concerned, but it's mainly the Muscovy ducks. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. I've sent my email address on the chat box. The next hand was, I think, can't see them now.
Is Grietjie?
Good morning, all. My name is Dela Masilela. I'm a farmer in Kalinen. My plea to the government, to SAPA, please consider us as upcoming smallholder farmers, because we are faced with the challenge. We are faced with the challenge whereby our businesses can't prosper because of all the way things are done. We can't get chickens when we want to get them. I understand now we've been hit by avian flu as layer farmers. Especially, there are no point of laying the market. We understand that. But that, it doesn't start happening today. Prior, before avian flu, when you are a smallholder farmer, you want to buy your point of lay, preparing for the festive season, let me put it like that, whereby there's lots of money. We can't get them. We'll only get them when the festive season is gone. The reason is this: we as Black smallholder farmers, we are not participating through the whole value chain of the industry. We are pleading with the government. I'm happy I heard Mr. Daniel Ramdau talking about the master plan, the poultry master plan, that you are considering that we must have rearing farms, we must have hatcheries. That one is very much crucial. We need to address that one to assist us so that we are able to participate in all the millions that you've been counting of the eggs that we are eating, that we are producing in South Africa. I know out of those millions, only 2 or 3% is us Black farmers. I am a very passionate layer farmer, but really it's difficult. Even now, we are looking for quotation through all these commercial rearing farms. They tell you straight they don't have eggs, point of lay, and they don't even want to take your details. You will wait maybe 2 or 3 years from now. What is that? Where are we? This is our livelihood. How are we going to grow our children? Please help us. This is a serious war. We want to work with the white commercial farmers hand in hand, but please level the field for us. Give us intensive training so that we know exactly what we are doing, so that we can also contribute to our country. Thank you.
Shanga, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you also. Unfortunately, I think I joined late. I've got several questions that I wanted to ask, and they are mainly commercial questions. You know, on the broiler side, many of us battle to gain market access. I'll make an example. You have a piece of land that you can grow free range, so-called free range chicken, and you grow it for a particular customer. You want to be a contract grower for a particular customer. In this example, you take Woolies, you go to them, they just don't even want to open a door for you to listen to your presentation. And most of the time, you don't even want to get a contract. You say, for instance, I'm a chicken farmer. I want you to tell me what are your standards. How do you do this thing so that I can build my business according to the standards and know that the product is product that you can buy, you know. And we just don't get access to those people. They just refuse. You go to the website, there's not even a person that is in charge of that thing. So I think, Sapo, you can help us to bring these people in this session, that we can talk to them. They can come and see our projects and advise us on the best acceptable practices that they want to buy the product at. Thank you.
Ali, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ali.
Okay.
Yes,
I am Kobani Sukwendu from MTA AgriHub, and we are based here in Marikana, Northwest. We started with our layers last year. They arrived here in February 2024. So now we're still looking to expand, because we had about 2,000 layers, so we still want to expand. So my question is basically based on the vaccination program. So are those vaccination should one be registered at the South African Poultry Association in order to get vaccination? And then two, another question is that when will one know when the distribution has already started or is going to start? That's all I have on my side. Thank you.
Londiwe, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindiwe Goodness Baloyi. I'm based in Midrand, Pretoria. I just bought a farm now from the white guy, so I just need a support. I'm busy preparing now for my chickens. I've placed the scent, now the sawdust. I've bought all the equipment that are needed. And so I just need support from SAPA or anyone closer to me so that I can be able to grow, because I've got this passion and I like farming in all spheres of my life. I like to do the boilers and also those egg hatching chickens. So please, I need support. Atmosphere, 100% support every day. If I can have a training and have someone to contact when I'm encountered with some problems or challenges, so that I can be able to. I wake up every day in the morning. I'm from the farm right now. I came running. There was a bit of traffic. I came running for this meeting. It's very, very important to me. And when I hear people talking about being ignored, please, guys, can we try to support the Black farmers 100%? Because we are here, we want to stand up, we want to do better for our communities. Yeah, that's all I can say for now. So as I started laying the sand and sawdust and preparing everything, so next week I've already bought 100 chickens to be grown, and the food, the type of food that they must eat first for a few weeks, whatever. I'm studying that, and I just need support. I just need support. At the same time, the other compartment, I want to start with those ones for the eggs, because the space is enough. Is big. So I don't know. I just need support. Someone whom I can talk to, whom we can come and visit the place and see and give some advices. I thank you.
I think we've
Joel, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc. My other question was not answered when I asked about guinea fowls eggs. Because the guinea fowls, they lay a lot of eggs and they are valuable if you do have them. And plus, partly we can call them they are organic or free range, and they're very nutritious and healthy for people to eat. But when I look at our market in South Africa, I don't see them. You go to Woolies, you go to Checkers, I don't see them anywhere else. But when you go to Asia and Europe, they do consume these things. So, and also my question would be that I need to know if you wanted to export them from South Africa to Asia or Europe, what the procedures you will take and how do the Poultry Association can help for you to be able to do that. Thank you.
Dr. Abongile, can you
thanks.
address those questions?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chairperson. I think a number of the questions are more general to what I've presented, and the answer to most of those questions, especially on the hatchery side of things, from the lady here, I think was Kalinen side, that is covered in our egg master plan. I think quite a number of questions that came, they are more into information seeking. So now suggest that, I'm not trying to lobby members here. If you are willing, please consider to join and be a SAPA member. Our forms are available on our website. That is where we share the information and also where we, keep our members up to date. If you've got any issue as a member, the same treatment we give to a white commercial farmer is the same treatment we'll give to a black producer. So you drop an email as a member. If you've got any queries, then we'll attend to your issues. And then I think that will bring me to the end of the presentation, Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Abongile, for the informative presentations. And then it seems like there are other people who have raised their hand. Can we take another, maybe the last one, the last round of the last round, and then we close this?
No, thanks, Charles. I'll take the last two questions.
Yeah, just the last three. Londiwe and Londiwe, Joel, and Kosi, in that order. Please go ahead. Londiwe, please go ahead. Londiwe, please unmute yourself.
Are you saying Londiwe or Lindiwe?
Lindiwe.
Oh.
Sorry about that, Lindiwe.
Oh. Lindiwe spoke. I said I'm based in Midrand. I'm new in this industry. I just bought a farm, and so I have prepared the place for my chickens. I'm busy preparing it. So next week I will start growing them. So I need someone around Midrand to come and view the place, test the ground, because I've planted some vegetables for the chickens, spinach and like some, so that I can feed them. And so I just want someone to come and test everything and see the place and try to give me some advices, because I'm just using the old things that I knew when I grew up. So I just needed that utmost support. I'm in Midrand, just bought a farm. So I'm preparing the place, the sawdust, the scent is laying down. I'm putting on the sawdust, preparing everything, all the equipments I've bought. Now only the chickens are left for next week to come, so they will find the place ready. So I just need someone that is more knowledgeable to come and help me so that we can continue. I thank you. Am I audible enough?
Thanks, Lindiwe. We acknowledge your invitation. And as I've said, if you don't mind, please consider joining and become a SAPA member, which will make things easier, for us, to intervene when necessarily. So yeah, I acknowledge your invitation. Thanks.
Yeah, this is an emergency one. Yes, I will do that. It's an emergency one because already I have set up the place. I'm busy setting the place up, and next week the chickens will be here. So I just want someone very quickly to come and help me there. Yes, I will join this up. I'll go to the website and complete everything and register. I thank you.
Thank you so much, colleagues. And then once again, to Dr. Abongile from SAPA, thank you for the presentations. And then in the interest of time, and then let's go to the next presenter from Agricultural Research Council, which will be made by Dr. Romito. The topic will be about the overview and overview of testing done for detection of virus influenza. Please, Dr. Romito, this is your platform. Go ahead.
Good day. Can you hear me?
Yes, Doc, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, Doc, we can hear you.
Okay. Can you see my slide as well?
Doc.
Not yet.
Okay.
We can hear you, Doc.
All right. Let me just try and get the slide up.
We can see it now.
Okay. Thank you. Good day. My name is Marco Romito. I'm from the Diagnostic PCR Laboratory at the Agricultural Research Council, the Onderstepoort Veterinary Research Campus. We were formerly also known as the Onderstepoort Veterinary Institute. We've been involved with testing for influenza A virus for many years, for approximately 20 years. Our section was established about 25 years ago for molecular diagnostic work, the detection of a wide range of pathogens of veterinary importance. And In the case of influenza A virus, initially most of the testing was done on ostrich samples. And we have a setup there that allows for biosecure processing of samples and automated testing, extraction of nucleic acids in a controlled environment. The testing we do on an ongoing basis is for detection of all influenza A viruses using real-time RT-PCR, and any positives are then tested further. And this would include subtyping tests, particularly H5 and H7 viruses. Also, sequencing is carried out if required. The next slide gives an indication of the test numbers that we have done over the last 8 years. The peaks indicate outbreaks of highly pathogenic influenza viruses in poultry. We frequently detect virus in ostriches, but the first outbreaks of a highly pathogenic virus was in 2017, and that was due to a highly pathogenic H5N8 virus. Subsequently, we also had an outbreak in 2021 and 22 due to a highly pathogenic H5N1. And then in the last year, we had the outbreaks of both H5N1 and H7N6 viruses. In the case of other viruses, we do detect low pathogenic viruses such as H6N2 quite commonly found in many chicken flocks. And then a variety of other subtypes have been detected over the years in ostriches, going right back to the 1990s. Interestingly enough, one of the very first outbreaks of highly pathogenic influenza virus was detected in wild birds off the coast of the Cape in the 1960s, and that was shown to be an H5N3 virus. We also have a serology laboratory, and where virus isolation and serological testing gets done by Dr. Lebisi and her team. So they detect presence of antibodies, and then in the case of positive PCR reactors, isolation can also be done to assist with characterization. Some background about influenza A viruses. The species that are most susceptible to developing disease are the galliform family. These are the chickens, turkeys, guinea fowl, quail, pheasants. Those are the species where the term highly pathogenic has most relevance, because that is where very severe disease takes place. And it refers specifically to strains of the H5 and H7 virus that have undergone changes that allow them to spread rapidly in cells throughout the body. The low pathogenic viruses generally show relatively few signs, or if present, can cause a range of factors influencing production or increased susceptibility to other infections. The reason why the highly pathogenic viruses are so of great concern is the fact that mutational changes that take place allow the virus to spread to cells throughout the body, unlike the low pathogenic viruses, which tend to be limited to replication to mucosal surfaces, either in the respiratory tract or the gastrointestinal tract. There are 18 and 11 H and 11N subtypes. Previously, there had been 16 and 8 have been described, and new ones have been detected in bats. The natural reservoirs for influenza A viruses are wild aquatic birds. So the waterfowl in particular have been in close association with influenza A viruses for a very long time period, possibly hundreds or even thousands of years. But problems that have arisen have been due to spillover events into poultry. And we know that in the 19th century already, one of the first major outbreaks of what was referred to as fowl plague was probably highly pathogenic avian influenza. So that was sometime in the 1800s. And it was only sometime in the 1920s or so that the agent was shown to be an influenza A virus. The natural reservoirs can migrate over long distances. This is one way in which the virus can be spread over different continents and countries. There are also viruses that have emerged that are specific to certain species, so-called host-specific lineages. For instance, the seasonal flu affecting humans is a host-specific lineage that is well adapted to replicating in humans. There are similar lineages in pigs, in horses, dogs, but these events are relatively rare. That is the emergence of host-specific viruses, but there have been many other species that do get infected, although a host-specific lineage is often not yet established. Other species where we see outbreaks include mink, various sea mammals like seals, pigs. Pigs can also pick up infection from humans as well as from birds. And this is just an overview of the symptoms associated with infection when highly pathogenic virus infects poultry. It need not necessarily apply to other species where the symptoms may or may not be present, but in poultry, you can have either just sudden death when the case is peracute, or that might be noticed as a sudden decline in food and water intake. In more protracted cases, symptoms can include respiratory distress, diarrhea, neurological signs, swelling of the head, the wattles. Some hemorrhages as well can also be seen on the surfaces as well as internally. And these are just some of the pictures on the top left, pinpoint hemorrhages in internal organs. On the right, the wattles that are swollen and bluish, cyanotic. And the bottom right-hand side, also pinpoint hemorrhages in the proventriculus. In the case of low pathogenic viruses, often infection remains asymptomatic, or there may be secondary problems related to secondary infections arising. Mortalities can be low, and it can be generally more difficult to identify and eliminate. In South Africa, we've had ongoing problems with infection with the H6N2 virus circulating in many poultry flocks. Ostriches are also very susceptible, and that's due to the farming nature. They are exposed to the carriers, the waterfowl, and being in semi-arid areas, they tend to accumulate around watering points, and this is an area where infection can readily arise, and there have been numerous outbreaks. Disease may not always be extensive. Often it can be mild or inapparent, and if it is present, often there are other factors like management and other stress factors that are contributing. Now, in terms of differential diagnosis, what are the other diseases that can be confused? Obviously, number one would be Newcastle disease, velogenic Newcastle disease, and we frequently also test for Newcastle disease as well, together with avian influenza testing. And there's a whole list of other pathogens that may, in fact, have similarities, particularly when there are sudden deaths in wild birds or in poultry. One of the important developments in avian influenza was the emergence of the Asian H5N1 in 1996. And this virus spread very rapidly and also spilled over again into wild birds, and also caused surprisingly high mortalities, even in birds that were traditionally always seen as relatively resistant towards disease. And this virus, with ongoing circulation, spawned many other strains, of which the clade 2344 lineage is particularly important and is still with us today and has caused explosive outbreaks around the world. It seems like this particular virus has increased its receptor binding abilities. It's able to attach to receptors in a greater number of different species.
Low volume on my side.
Sorry, Doc, about that.
Yes.
I just wanted to confirm from the quorum or from the attendees if there, because I see there on the chat board, there's someone who's saying he cannot be able to see the slide. I just wanted to confirm if everyone can hear you and also see the slides. Just to confirm.
From my side, I can hear and see. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And then those who have raised their hands will take the questions, and then after the presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
Please go ahead, Doc.
Thank you. So these viruses also can form stable groupings with other subtypes quite readily, forming stable viruses like N2, N3, N5, N6, N8. And so it has spread around the world. And we have in South Africa had now several outbreaks with this particular clade of H5, the H5N8 and the H5N1, causing huge outbreaks. The question of zoonotic potential, fortunately, this particular clade doesn't seem to have increased zoonotic potential. There aren't indicators of that. And we can say that the outbreaks we've had in South Africa, there have been no indications of human infections. So that's at least a positive point. This is just an overview of some of the outbreaks from 2004 onwards till 2018. As you can see, many different outbreaks in ostriches, not necessarily together with any serious disease, but obviously has big impacts on exports. The major outbreak was the poultry H5N8 outbreak that affected many bird species, not only poultry, including ostriches and wild birds. And then 2017, H5N8 is believed to have arrived probably from Zimbabwe, first emerging in Mpumalanga and then spreading rapidly, affecting poultry and ostriches, wild birds. All provinces, many of the provinces were affected. 2021, we also had a further outbreak of H5N1. And then last year was a particularly bad year with the outbreak of not only H5N1, but also the H7N6 virus. It spread rapidly to many poultry facilities and has caused massive losses, as the previous speaker has indicated. Substantial losses were obtained for the poultry industry. And then lastly, vaccination already, that has been discussed by Dr. Balarane. I can just add to that, one needs to keep in mind that vaccination does not necessarily impact on susceptibility to infection. It might cause protection against disease, but not necessarily infection. This is a major challenge in vaccinology, how to elicit strong mucosal immunity. And it's often quite short-lived. So infection might still take place, ongoing circulation might still occur. So that is why the department is only approving it under very strict conditions. There has to be ongoing surveillance, which unfortunately is going to be very costly and will thus limit the use for only targeted sectors only. And the reason why you do not want ongoing circulation is because that can be a spawning ground for new variants arising. And of course, in the long run, the great risk of reassortance with between avian and human influenza viruses that could generate, for instance, another pandemic virus. So that's the great fear and the great risk with vaccination. You can drive the virus underground. And that's the reason why it has always been contentious. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues, Dr. Rotherham, the department, Dr. Klerk, and Dr. Stradom. The Western Cape Provincial Laboratory is also involved with a lot of testing in the past. Professor Bolnick's done a lot of work on avian influenza. She was also active here at the Institute. And then our colleagues at the Virology Lab. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for the presentations, and then it's very informative, and then we hopefully that so colleagues, and then we are going to take maybe let's say 3 rounds of a question, and then we'll take the first 4 speakers and attendees who would like to answer. To ask the questions or also any comments, and then yeah. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
Those questions, they can raise their hands, and then I will acknowledge them. Mr. Malusi, go ahead.
Hi, Prof. I just wanted to ask, what are the, let me say, basic measures which a small-time farmer can put in place to protect himself from most of these viruses?
Well, biosecurity is always very important. Access control, ensuring vaccination is maintained. I'm sure my other colleagues, the poultry specialists, will be in a better position to respond. But basically, vaccine protocols are followed and biosecurity maintained, especially during outbreak periods when one has to really ramp up biosecurity substantially. I don't know if my colleagues at the department might be able to give better advice.
Thank you, Prof.
Colleagues, any other questions, comments, input? We have Makamela. Mahalema, sorry. Please go ahead. Mahalema, please unmute yourself.
Good morning, and I'm saying, is it possible that the upcoming farmers vaccines can be made available on yearly basis as a preventative measure to vaccinate their chickens so that when the outbreaks come, it does not wipe out the stock that they have? Thank you.
The next one is KHO Co. Please go ahead. Co, please unmute your mic and proceed. It seems like Co is experiencing some problem. Let's go to Gabriel. Gabriel, please go ahead.
Hello, Doc. I wanted to check with you if the organization make provisions to hold physical workshops in various provinces, because I think most farmers would benefit greatly from this inputs.
Yes, there have been ongoing workshops that have been presented. We do have a training section, and there have been already workshops held in the past. So I think from the ARC side, they are willing to offer workshops. I'm not perhaps the right person to speak about that, but we do have colleagues that are able to give more advice about arranging workshops if necessary.
Thank you, Doc. Co, can you please unmute yourself?
Can I start to share my presentation? Was that the last question?
Not yet, Doc. We still have someone who want to raise the question, and then we'll let you. You will present your slide after this one.
Are we done? The question is cut.
Yes, you are done, Mr. Kunjana. We can go ahead. Thank you. It seems like Co is having some troubles in terms of connection, so let's proceed. So I suggest that Mr. Uko, if there's burning question, you can type it on the chat bar, and then we'll be able to address it. Thank you.
All right. No, I think that is fine, Mr. Rambao. I mean, based on the time, we are approaching the third presentation. I think that is Klerk. I think we can just go ahead and project your presentation at this stage, and then we will take questions after that. Are you ready with the presentation, Doc?
Thank you very much. I'll start to share my presentation now.
Thank you.
Let me just share. Just give me a second or two. It should be available now. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is available. Can you please put it on the...
Can you see it on the slide, on the presentation format now?
Not yet.
I've done it from my side. Let me see if it goes. Is it okay now?
Yes, Doc, it's there. Just
Okay.
put it on,
That one says
presentation mode.
Presentation mode. It is on presentation mode. Let me just go out of presentation mode and then see how I can put it into presentation mode. Let me just try. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, Doc, it's there. From my
Okay, I'm going to put, from my side, I'll put it on presentation mode. It's in presentation mode on my side now.
Just do with what you got, Doc.
Okay. I will talk to you about controlled poultry diseases in South Africa. Because I am from the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, and specifically from the animal health side. So my focus will be from the disease side, although I will mention other aspects as well. And I'll talk a little bit of what is considered as poultry, and it sounds like a very strange question to ask, but I'll explain. And then I'll talk a little bit of the diseases that are controlled, the poultry diseases that are controlled by government, and specifically avian influenza, Newcastle, and Salmonella. So firstly, what is considered as poultry? And people always think, yeah, chickens, maybe ostriches, but as you've heard from many of the participants who gave comment, and they also have ducks, and they have quail, there are emos, all of them are considered as poultry, and I want you to see that down on the left-hand side, even very small backyard facilities are also considered as poultry. Why is that an issue? Because what do we not consider as poultry? And that is important because our status as a country can be influenced by that. If you have, for instance, diseases like avian influenza, and it occurs in wild birds in your country, but not in your poultry population, then your country will not lose a free status. So you will be considered as a trader that can trade as a free country. If you have, let's say, a small facility or a backyard flock, if you do not sell live birds or meat or eggs, so basically you are using that for yourself, that will also not be considered as poultry. But the moment that you are selling anything, and most of us must do that, we share or sell, it will be considered as poultry, and that it can, and then it can have an impact on the status of the country. And wild birds or birds that are in cages, apart from chickens and other poultry, will also not be considered as poultry. So in South Africa, we have controlled and notifiable diseases. And those are the diseases that have to be controlled by government. And it is described in the Animal Diseases Act, that is the Act 35 of 1984. And according to that act, if you are an animal owner, if you spot a disease that might be one of the controlled or notifiable diseases, you have to report it to the nearest state vet or animal health technician. And why is that important? Because the quicker you can control. Yes.
Sorry to disturb. I think you are on a slide mode and then we are not seeing anything from our side. And maybe I'd suggest that maybe you cancel sharing and then you reshare again. Maybe share the entire screen so that it becomes easy.
Okay, I will do so. Let me do that. Let me try. Okay, I'm going to share again. Share. Okay, share. Can you see it now?
Yes, try to make it full screen.
Is it full screen now?
No. I think maybe it's because you are selecting a window instead of sharing your screen. Please share your screen so that it can capture it when you move to slideshow.
Okay, let me just try again. I'm going to share and then I will do the entire screen. Screen one, share. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see. Then you can maybe move to the presentation.
Okay, is it in presentation mode or not?
Please go to the presentation. Yes, and then slideshow.
Is it now in presentation mode?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, sorry about that. I will go a few slides back. I started to talk about controlled and notifiable diseases, and according to the Animal Diseases Act, the government must control, or there are specific control measures for those diseases. And if you as animal owners spot a disease like that, you have to report it to the nearest state vet or animal health technician. And it's extremely important, but because the sooner you can control an outbreak, the better, because it means that you will prevent further spread or large losses. So what else is there in the Animal Diseases Act that you must know about? According to the Act, and specifically in Article 11, it says that you as owner must make sure and do everything in your power to keep your flock healthy. And if there is a disease, you have to make sure that it does not spread to neighbors. And that's very important because these days people can run to court very quickly. So make sure that the disease is not starting in your flock. So, and if there is a disease in your flock, you have to inform your neighbors so that they can also look out for that. So I'm going to talk about the 3 diseases that are considered as control diseases, the avian influenza, as you have heard now about that, and all the different strains that occur is considered as controlled. Then Newcastle disease and then Salmonella. There are different strains of Salmonella, so that is also important to note. And I want you to look at the picture. On the one hand, we are fighting the diseases. So you see the big bull there and you see the control diseases. On the left-hand side, please note that I've added state and private veterinary services, animal production services, and industry. It is extremely important that we all work together. You can't just tackle a disease by controlling it if it is there. You must try and prevent it. And many speakers mentioned that they need information and support and somebody to come and hold their hand. So that is so important because healthy chickens will not get disease easily. So how you farm with your chickens, what you feed your chickens is important. So you will see throughout the presentation that it's not only government that must do something, it's also other industry, owners, and animal production people. We must all work together to ensure that our poultry flock in the country is healthy. So now I can ask you, how will I recognize these diseases? And there are quite a list of diseases in poultry in South Africa, and most of them look similar, and that is the big problem. The signs of disease can look exactly the same. So how must you know what is happening in your flock? So you might see sudden death. You might just see chickens that look ill and do not want to eat. So you will see a feed intake drop. You will see that they will not produce eggs. You will see poor growth. And what on earth is happening in your chickens? And you can see all the signs there. There can be different levels of those signs, but it will not give you a definite idea of what diseases you have in your poultry. What is also important for you to note is it spreading to other chickens? Because that might tell you about the severity of this disease and what it might be. Is it only 1 or 2 of your chickens, or are you seeing large numbers dying? Are you seeing your neighbors' chickens dying? That is very important to note as well. So what do you do if you find yourself in a situation like that? And the lady that said that she has started with her chicken facility, I can absolutely understand that she will need support now, because she must learn how to deal with it and what to look out for. So firstly, if you see any of these signs and you see large numbers of chickens dying, please contact your nearest state veterinarian or animal health technician and ask them to come and investigate and to take samples, or you can go to a private veterinarian if you have access. And if they confirm that there is a control disease or a suspicion, they will take samples. And it's important to note that government will pay for these samples. If it goes through the government vet or the animal health technician, they have to take samples and they have to help you find out what the disease is. So where will you find your nearest state vet? That is very important to note. And if you are in an area, make sure that you have the telephone number of your animal health technician and your state vet on speed dial, so that you can ask them to come and help if you need help. So it's very important that you right away find the right person. And I can unfortunately not give you information of the production people, but I'm sure that in the provinces, the animal health veterinary services will be able to provide you with further information on who will be able to give you support in your chicken facility. So I've given you a link there. If you click on the link, you will go to a list of all the provincial state veterinary services. You can look for the nearest one in your area, and you will have an email address, you will have a telephone number, you will have the main office number, so you can always call and ask for help. It is important to note that in South Africa, veterinary services are divided into basically 2 streams. The one is the national office, which have another function. We have to put protocols together. We have to report internationally. We have to report diseases across the country. But then the provincial veterinary services, those are the ones that you have to contact, because they have the people on the ground that can come out and give support. So look under your province where you are, and then you'll find the correct details. And I will make the presentation available so that you can have the link and contact with your animal health technician and state veterinarian. I just wanted to talk a little bit about avian influenza. You've heard a lot of things. You've heard from Dr. Balarane, a very good presentation from the industry side. and how important it is to look at the industry financially and make sure that everything is viable and sustainable. So my input will be from the disease side. And Dr. Romito spoke about the tests, and maybe after this you will understand more about the tests as well, why we use what we use. Now, avian influenza is a virus. It is found globally. So I've given you a map there, a global map, and you can see South Africa is not in too bad at the situation if you just look at the global picture. You can see that in the Northern Hemisphere, there are many outbreaks of avian influenza. You can also see that there are many areas that we don't see any red dots, and you can ask yourself, why not? I think it is there, it's just not diagnosed or reported. And what I can also tell you, and I'll show you again in the next slide, is that these outbreaks here, although they are far away, can end up here in the southern portion of South Africa, and that's very important to note. Unfortunately, it is a contagious disease, so it can spread very quickly between flocks and within flocks. And it has the potential to cause severe disease. And I say it has the potential to cause severe disease because some strains will have less of an impact on the poultry, and some are definitely more serious and will kill a lot more of your poultry. If you look at the right side here, you will see what the virus looks like. And you've heard that Dr. Romito talked about H and N types, just to describe where it comes from. You can see it's sort of a round structure with spikes on the outside. And then in the inside, you can see the virus itself, the virus material that will eventually cause the problem in your chickens. But on the outside, you see different types of spikes. The one we call hemagglutinin and the other one neuraminidase. And that's why we classify the virus according to these spikes on the outside of the virus. So if we talk about the H type, you must realize that it is because it is a specific sort of hemagglutinin. So we just call it H. And then you will find the virus can be, for instance, an H5, but then you will also see there's an N type, and that is the neuraminidase, and that's what we use to basically identify the virus with. So how can it travel across from the Northern Hemisphere to us? Now, there are quite a number of migratory wild birds, and that means that they travel from the Northern Hemisphere. They go to the Northern Hemisphere when it is summer there, and then they come to the Southern Hemisphere when we have summer. And you can see all the flyways, the different flyways across the world. And you will see in South Africa, we sit at the southern tip. So this is, in a sense, a lucky position because we are at the end of the flyway. The birds will fly back after our summer, spend the summer in the Northern Hemisphere in quite a number of countries, and then they will all come back in our summer. But on the way, we think that all the birds infected with avian influenza, many of them will get sick and they will die. So eventually, the ones that reach us, and that's quite a number of birds, the ones that come to us here has got a very, very low number of infected birds. And that's a very good thing. So, and we can also learn from what is happening in the Northern Hemisphere and watch out to see what will come to us next. So it gives us a bit of an advantage. It's also important to note that there are many shorebirds, the birds that are along our coastline, that they are the birds, some of them can carry avian influenza. And as an example, I've given you a picture of terns. And they come to South Africa And they will spend a long time here. They will mix with our local birds, such as our Egyptian geese. And then in the end, those local birds will then, if they have contact with our poultry, they can transmit the disease to our local poultry. So that's how it ends up here. I want to show you a map, and this is called a risk map. And this will give you an idea of which areas of the country is more at risk for avian influenza. It's not all parts of the country, and you will see the redder it is, the areas are, the more risk there is for the local poultry to be infected with avian influenza. And why? Because they've taken different risk factors, and that includes the availability of food and water, and also large numbers of poultry and large numbers of humans. And that together, if you put that all onto a map, you can identify the risk areas. It's also the areas with higher rainfall, and very importantly in the northern portion of the country, it's also the areas where you have open water like rivers or dams, but also crop cultivation. Many areas you will have irrigated crops or crop production, and that provides food to wild birds. So that's why you have certain areas that are more at risk. So that's one thing that you can take into account if you want to start a poultry farm. If at all, you can maybe select an area that is less at risk. And I'm looking here, you can also see the drier areas of the country are less at risk. So, and Dr. Romito also already mentioned that we have got two types of avian influenza. The one is low pathogenic avian influenza, and we will call it low path. And if that comes into your flock, it causes little or no clinical signs. You might not even see it. You might maybe see a little bit of egg drop or less food intake, but it's not as severe. And as an example, we have H6, and he has mentioned that as well. And then we have the high path one, and that is the one that we are worried about. And that is all the H5 and H7 ones can be high path. It's also very important to note that these viruses have the potential to change or mutate, and then they can become more infectious for people as well. And that's why we are worried about avian influenza. So the history of avian influenza in South Africa is that in 2004, we had our first outbreak, and that was in ostriches in the Eastern Cape province. We knew nothing about avian influenza, and we had to learn very quickly. We killed and destroyed a lot of poultry, of ostriches. Can you still hear me?
Perfectly, Doc, we can hear you.
Okay. We killed at that stage a lot of ostriches in the Eastern Cape, and we realized later on that it was not necessary, so we put other control measures in place. And then only in 2017, we had our first outbreaks in chickens. That started in Mpumalanga, but there was spread, and that one was an H5N8. The first one was an H5N2. I want to talk a little bit about the recent outbreaks that caused trouble to us. In 2021, we had an H5N1 outbreak that was a high pathogenic one. Luckily, we could close that. We could control and close that. As Dr. Romito mentioned, we used to see avian influenza outbreaks mostly in winter. And then when the birds, the birds came to us in summer, and it took a while for the virus to establish in the country. So we will see the outbreaks in winter, and it will disappear in summer. But what we are seeing nowadays is that the interval between outbreaks are becoming less and less. and that we see more outbreaks in summer now as well. And that's a global picture. It's not only in South Africa. So the H5N1, luckily for us, was not a high zoonotic potential one. And zoonotic potential means the ability to infect humans. So luckily, we don't have that yet. So then we had also in 2023 another H5N1, but it's important to note that it was not the one that we saw earlier, and that's very important because it shows you that new viruses come in all the time. Luckily for us, that was also a low zoonotic potential one. And then, unfortunately, we had in 2023, we had the H7N6 high pathogenic avian influenza. It started off in Gauteng, as you can see there. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see the number of detections that we had in wild birds. You can see that we only managed to test positive, to get positive samples in wild birds twice, and in this particular area. So we think that a very low number of virus came into the country, and then it spilled over into poultry. You can see what happened there. It was an explosion. And what we do, Dr. Romito also mentioned sequencing. Sequencing is the process where you look very deeply into the actual virus, and you can then see what the genetic makeup of the virus is. And by doing that, you can almost like a police investigator, find the origin of the virus and find out how it is spreading in the country. And from that, we know every time that the virus goes to a new farm, it might change a little bit. So we can identify the pathway of the virus. So we know that there is an indication that all these outbreaks were caused by mechanical spread. Remember, the virus is out there. People can take it on their boots, it can go on trucks, it can go on equipment. And if you share that between farms or you drive between farms, feed trucks, you can spread the virus. So that is a big problem. That's why we have started to look at the biosecurity. Biosecurity is quite a broad term. And there are many things that you can do to safeguard your poultry. Just as a summary, you can see the areas that were infected by H5. Those are the red dots, and the orange dots are the H7 outbreaks. And once again, if you remember that map that I showed you, the risk map, it is exactly the red areas on that risk map. So it shows you we know approximately where the risk is high and where we can expect outbreaks. So what can I do to prevent infection in my flock? It can really be from very basic to very complicated, but it stays the same principle counts. The main thing is prevent contact between wild birds and poultry. And roughly, we call that biosecurity. There are many ways that you can do it. The main thing is, if you have a few backyard chickens running around, you don't give them a lot of food and water. They look after themselves, and you will feed them a little bit. So that will not entice wild birds to come and mix with your poultry. And if you have bigger facilities, you have a higher poultry density, you have to supply large numbers of food and water to your poultry. So that becomes a bigger risk. So you will have to ensure that your chicken houses are bird proof as far as possible to chase the wild birds away and ensure that they are not coming into contact. Do not bring any sick chickens into your flock. It sounds simple, but you might find chickens for cheap and you buy it, you bring it in, and after that your own flock start to die. If you work on a chicken farm or you go and visit friends with chickens, do not handle your chickens after you have handled any other chickens. That's very important because remember, you don't see a disease straight away. There are a few days that the birds become infected without showing signs. We call it the incubation phase. So if the chickens are in the incubation phase and you handle those chickens, you can spread the virus. So it's always good to rather make sure that you wash your clothes in shower before you go to another chicken flock. And please do not sell sick chickens to someone. And that is unfortunately something that will happen. People will sell, if they see that they are the flock is dying, they might sell all the healthy ones, and those are the ones that are incubating the disease already. So by doing that, you can spread the disease. And then also be on the lookout for any strange signs and report a suspicion so that it can be investigated, so that you know what is happening in your area. And the state vets and animal health technicians will also have a very good idea of which areas have been hit by outbreaks. So they will give you information on what to look out for and where to look out for the disease. So the current control measures, how do we control it? Firstly, the first thing that you do, you put the area under quarantine, or the farm, or the site, or the chicken house, and you leave the chickens in there because you don't want them to move around and spread the disease. And at the moment in the Animal Diseases Act, it still says it must be all in contact and infected poultry shall be destroyed under supervision of the government, destroyed, it will be killed, and it will be either buried or composted or dumped in a very safe place. So that is currently in the Act that we have to do if you have avian influenza in your flock and it's highly pathogenic avian influenza. But there are other control measures. As the disease is increasing globally, we are looking into...
Sorry, Doc.
Yes?
Yes, can you try to sort of push it up a little bit? I'm looking at the time.
Okay.
So, but I think it's important what you're saying, but I think just try to push a little bit. Thank you.
I'm almost done. So we are looking into other aspects. We are looking at exemption from culling. That you don't have to kill your chickens, but then you have to have high biosecurity and you have to have increased surveillance. We are also investigating vaccination. Once again, you will not be able to vaccinate if you do not have high enough biosecurity and increased surveillance. And then your chickens must go for direct slaughter at an abattoir. You can't sell spent hens, or you can't sell live chickens to anybody else. So what is the implications of vaccination? Unfortunately, vaccination will not prevent disease, but will just decrease the signs and therefore the impact of the disease. But there will still be disease, so you have to still be very careful not to spread the disease. So that, as I've said, increases the risk of movement of the disease by movement of chickens that look healthy. And I just wanted to you to note that there is no example currently in the world where vaccination managed to get rid of avian influenza. The things that we are worried about, the cost of vaccine must be taken into account, as well as the cost of the increased biosecurity and surveillance that will be needed. There is a SADC protocol. There was a decision not to vaccinate, but South Africa got permission from SADC to vaccinate as a test case. And you can't export any vaccinated flock and immediate progeny. Okay, I'm going to skip Newcastle. Newcastle, basically you can vaccinate for Newcastle. It's also a virus that can spread very quickly, and you have to isolate your infected animals and dealt with it as determined by the director. And that is just where we had Newcastle in 2023. And then Salmonella, it's important to note that you get different strains, and rather work with your state vet or your private vet to go through all the steps to clean your flock and to implement the control strategy. And that is all the Salmonella enteritidis outbreaks that we had in 2003. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. That was quite a good one. Actually, it also links very well with what Dr. Romito earlier presented about. So I think we are having a good connection of this. And also, interestingly, is that I think also what is important is you've mentioned the issue of not necessarily having a vaccine for this will get rid of these outbreaks, and that's something that I think is very important. As much as we are pushing for these vaccines, I think that's something that we also need to account, at least to put into this. Thank you for that. Colleagues, Mr. Ramba, I think you're going to do the same thing again for this round. We have some, I'll say 8 minutes, but given on the importance of this, probably I'll add maybe some 5 minutes on top of the discussions that we have just before the break. So please do assist me with the hands if there are any around this topic. Thank you. Any hands?
Thank you, Chair. There's a hand from Mufokeng. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. This time it's not a mistake. Ne? My name is Marine Mufokeng. Dr. de Klerk, thank you very much for sharing the insightful presentation. And I know you always respond to us if we need some clarity from the department. I have a number of questions. The first one is about the vaccine. You said for H5 vaccine is approved, then for H7 we are waiting for approval. Then the first question is, when are we starting to vaccinate? Take into consideration that now it's March, and obviously the number of outbreaks reported will start to increase, meaning we might face the storm again this year. And then the second one is about the approval to vaccinate. Why there is no farmer approved yet to vaccinate? And the other one is about financial feasibility. Do you think it will be financially feasible to vaccinate? I think I read somewhere about the protocol. It seems like you will pay around, as a farmer, you'll pay around 18,000 per visit to monitor the vaccination protocol. Given that most, like here in this platform, I think most of my colleagues is emerging, or we can say small case farmers. Do you think it will be financially feasible? That's the third question. Then the first one was about when are we starting to vaccinate? And then the second one, why there's no farmer approved to vaccinate? Then the third one is about the financial feasibility of the vaccine, especially for emerging farmers. Thank you. I think I'll have some follow-up questions, but for now, I think we can address these three questions. Thank you.
Hi, Doc, please go ahead.
Thank you. Firstly, the vaccines that are available, we have already 3 registered vaccines for H5. Remember, before you can use any vaccine, it must be registered by Act 36. So we already have 3 H5 vaccines. The reason why we don't have any H7 vaccines yet, there was no H7 vaccine that was suitable for registration, and that is basically because the vaccine was not safe enough. There is a local company that has started to do research and is now in the stage where they have submitted their registration information. They took the H7 virus that was in the country and they made a vaccine out of it. So we are awaiting the outcome of the Act 36 evaluation. Remember, you cannot approve a vaccine unless you are very sure that it is safe. And I want to also caution you, if I say H5 vaccines, remember I tried to explain that you get different strains of avian influenza. Not all vaccines will be effective against all strains. So you have to make sure that the vaccines that you approve in your country will be effective for your environment. So that's why it takes long. We need to make sure of that. At the moment, we don't see many outbreaks. We are past the outbreak now, but we have to now start with our vaccination program. We have received applications for vaccination already for quite a number of farms. There is already protocol for approval of vaccine, but the industry is still negotiating. They say they can't do all of that was stipulated in the protocol. And remember, our mandate is to keep our poultry safe. You can't really allow vaccination if you don't have special measures together with it. I have mentioned that it will not prevent disease. So you have to make absolutely sure that if there is a vaccinated farm, that you don't have any outbreaks of avian influenza on that farm that you can't see. So there will be increased biosecurity measures. There will be more testing to find out whether there is no virus circulation on the farm. The question of financial viability, I can't really answer that. I think the industry must look into that. It will depend on what you are going to vaccinate. The idea at first was that you vaccinate very valuable flocks, such as great-grandparents and grandparents. But then the industry insisted that all people must be able to vaccinate their chickens, which they can do if they will adhere to the requirements. So how long will it take? We are evaluating the first applications. We are almost done, and we'll give the go-ahead to the farms that were successful. And we will also inform the farms that were not successful of what was it that was not in place. I hope I've answered all your questions.
Yes, you did, but maybe the last one, the follow-up. This one is the department ready for the storm? Because now we are it's March, it will start to be cold. Then obviously some outbreaks will be reported somewhere. Now the numbers are low. It's because it was warmer, and we know if when it's warm, then the virus dies quickly. Then obviously even now, like we didn't resolve this thing. It was because of the weather condition, because it became warmer, then automatically if it's warm, the virus will die. Then now if you are not vaccinated, if you have not started to vaccinate yet, we might, and by might, I think I'm saying more than 75% sure that we might face the storm again this year. Well, what do you think? Are you supporting me or not? If not, why? What the government is doing, like currently, especially the department, are you ready for the next storm?
Maybe I must change it around and ask, are the poultry farmers ready? Because the first point will be to increase your biosecurity. Unfortunately, that is a thing that you have to do. We know that avian influenza viruses will come in every year. And remember, we are one of the first countries in the world that is considering vaccination. I know that they are vaccinating in China. They have started to vaccinate ducks in France, but it is still really the beginning. So we don't know what the effect will be. And what I must tell you, the worrying thing is we are very worried. If you vaccinate and you don't see disease coming in. The chickens will not die, the chickens will produce, so that's fine for the individual farmer. But if there is then virus circulating in your flock, because it keeps on circulating, it may change. So the worry is that it spreads across the country and we can't get rid of it ever again. That's the number one thing. But also the number two thing, and that is a global concern, that when the virus is circulating, it can change and it can start to infect humans, and then we'll sit with a second COVID. So from our side, we have to make sure that the vaccinated farms are doing it in a safe manner. We can't just irresponsibly dish out vaccine and say, okay, vaccinate, and then sit with a bigger challenge in a year or two. So it's not that we are not against vaccination, but some measures must be in place. And we are working with the farms that submitted their applications already. And we are looking at their biosecurity measures. We are looking at their surveillance. And if that is in place, they will get approval to vaccinate. But as I've said, you must also remember, if you vaccinate and you sell chickens to the next guy, that farm must also be also maintain the same biosecurity measures and surveillance, because vaccinated chickens is a threat to disease spread. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. I'm just worried, but I understand.
Thanks, Doc.
I'm just worried.
Thanks, Doc. We can just take some of these directly to Doc in the interest of time. Let's try to run with this one. I see Dr. Balarane has a hand. Kato, how many hands have you taken so far?
The one is this. The Dr. Abongile is number 2.
All right. Come in, Doc. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Grietjie. Actually, I needed to excuse myself at 10 o'clock, but I decided to stay because, you know, I was waiting for this presentation. It is indeed becoming dire for the industry, you know, to get the vaccines. I know we've been into this process for almost 6 months now, discussing the protocols and also these vaccines. Mine is not a question, but it's just to comment. As an industry, we are ready for the vaccines. Yes, we may be very closer to another storm of this AI, but then again, our position still remains that the vaccines will be voluntarily in our understanding, and also being voluntarily, they need to be inclusive. If we look at the current protocols, as we all know, I don't think there's any black farmer that will be able to adhere to those protocols or that will be able to vaccinate. Us sitting from the industry side, it is exactly what we don't want to see happening, as you know, being selective. We want this at least, you know, to cover everyone. And I know we've got a meeting tomorrow where we'll be talking about these issues. But for the comfort of those that are farmers in this platform, and for those that are investors from the banking institutions, I would like to confirm that there are ongoing discussions between us and DALRAD in terms of this issue of the vaccines, and we understand, you know, the emergency of the situation. Thanks.
Thanks, Doc. Really appreciated that. I think just to add on both what you said and Doc declared before, is that there is something that I think we also need just to put it into our minds. I think Mofokeng mentioned something critical in terms of the the climate that are related to to the spread of easily spreading this. If you can recall that South Africa, at least now, we are anticipating a bit of dryness compared to the previous years, and that's somehow partly one of the things that was an issue also for the past few years. Remember, the past 4 seasons we have had quite a number, or at least significant amount of wetness that we received because of the rains and all that. And that is critical. And I think also just to have a follow-up kind of a question from Doc to Klerk about the issue of spreading this. You've mentioned something about Egypt, having some of the, in terms of the migration of the birds from the northern hemisphere to here. as of the 24th of February, I think around 120,000 in US birds have been already infected by this, and that is worrying, given that we are moving towards a period where we normally get to see these. And also remember the period that in South Africa specifically we saw the largest peak in terms of the outbreaks. It was not necessarily during this time. That is when we normally see. It was sometime August, September, going towards the end of the year. That's when we really saw this. So how is this not impacting the likes of Egypt as it does South Africa, especially if the migration starts from the north part, including Egypt, and then coming to, and remembering that Egypt is also producing quite a large number of these and its neighbors. Thanks. Doc, are you still with us?
Can I just ask, what was the specific question? Because it was more of a comment.
Yes. Okay. So my specific comment, Doc, was that how is it that countries like Egypt that have quite some sizable number of the birds, as you know, not getting to be so impacted by this, like South Africa, because when the migration of the birds is moving from the north, it also somehow passed by there and then coming to the side. How is it that South Africa was so impacted compared to the countries like Egypt? Thanks.
Okay, maybe I can explain that. Egypt has given up. They are not controlling the disease anymore. They are just vaccinating to keep people safe. They will never eradicate the disease. It is permanently in Egypt. And they do see human cases from time to time. They have massive deaths, but they don't report necessarily. They are considered as endemic now. So the disease is there all the time. There's no break in the disease. It's there all the time. Maybe I can also mention we had conversations with quite a number of countries on their vaccination strategy. And we are one of the first countries globally that has got a strategy already in place. As I've said, we have a protocol. It is signed off. It can be implemented immediately, but so far the industry is still in negotiation to change that. And the main issue is cost. The cost is the issue. The vaccine is expensive. I'll tell you exactly what the price will be. And the increased biosecurity and surveillance will cost.
Sorry, Doc. Lindiwe, please mute your mic. Lindiwe, please. Go ahead, Doc.
What I wanted to say is that the industry must look after the industry and the financial situation. We must look after the safety of the general poultry in South Africa. And there is a protocol, but at the moment we are negotiating because the industry wants to have more relaxed measures. And we have to come to an agreement very soon. If we are going to implement it as is, or if we are going to relax the measures and take the chance of more danger coming up in the coming years. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Doc. I appreciate that. I think perhaps I'm not sure if there were any other hands after Dr. Balarane. Is there any, Mr. Rambao?
Yes, I think there's one on the chat box from Tinzalo. She's asking where to submit the request for vaccination.
It must be, the request must go to the nearest state veterinarian and with all the documentation. The best will be to contact that state veterinarian and ask for the information, because there is a protocol, it is available, and it will tell you what you need to have in place. Then you submit all the information to the state vet, and the state vet will then check and see if everything is there and if everything is in place, and will probably also visit your facility to ensure that the biosecurity is in place, and then it will be submitted to us, but it must go through the state vet. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Doc. I'm seeing one hand, I think, from one lady, I think, the Mikaya, or who, I think you can just go ahead. We are running out of time. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, Doc. Morning, our afternoon, colleagues. Doc, there was that slide where you had the flight paths of these birds and points of intersections. One notices a very common interaction area or a hotspot in northern Russia. Does that necessarily indicate a strategic surveillance area for early warning systems on diseases that might be coming into the future? Thank you.
Yes, there are several systems where they do surveillance across the world. And there is also, if you look at the World Organization for Animal Health, they also have programs and they have updated information. Surveillance is ongoing all the time. All the countries must do surveillance. So that is why we know what may potentially come. The H5N1 was circulating for a long time in Europe before it came to us. And then H7 was not circulating that much, but we are keeping an eye on that. We can't really tell. It will depend on the weather and the situation in South Africa in the next 6 months. We are trying to get as much information as possible about the Northern Hemisphere that we can be ready. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doc. I'll appreciate that. I also much want to comment on something in the absence of other hands. But Ramba, please let me know if there's any. You know, the thinking around the vaccines. I think one thing that should be also, noted is that there's implications for it in terms of the production prices of this, and then that means there's going to have to be an issue with the prices of the product. And given that poultry is one product that you cannot manage it to see it, skyrocketing as recently seen, I think that talks in volume. So it is important that we just don't, do things for the sake of doing. I understand and appreciate what the NH are doing, of course, working with the state to make sure that we do get some measures in place. But I think also look at other countries like the US. They are having other alternatives and trying to put, some brakes on the situation. But I think what is important, or at least we should appreciate, is that there is a will to make sure that from the state side of things that this is to be controlled and all that. But I will stop there, colleagues, in terms of the comments. But if there is no other hand, we have already passed the time scheduled for this by only 4 minutes. So in the absence of the hand, I will suggest that we go for the break, and then we're gonna be back around 11:50, and then from there we'll have one last more a presentation on the challenges faced by smallholder broiler producers. And I think this one is very important also for the colleagues working with the smallholder unit within the NAMC. Mr. Ramba, do you have more other hands?
No, any other hand, just on that chat box, I think there was a comment or concern from Mr. Peche. Is saying my concern is about the availability and accessibility of state vets, hence their scarcity.
Okay, now I think that is more of a comment of you, Mr. Rama. Thank you. Let me just take this time to thank the first representatives that we have. We really appreciate your insights, colleagues, and also the presentation, as they mentioned, they're going to be shared with everyone. And then I think that information is very valuable for all that are here. Can you just maybe take the few minutes and just to come back? Let's say it's already 5 minutes later. We can come back at 11:55. For the next presentation. I feel like we've been here for a while. So in the absence of comments and questions, let's get back here at 11:45, colleagues. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I see our president is already here, so I'm gonna assume that you have a nice coffee for this section. Thanks. So I'm seeing a hand. Okay. Okay, colleagues, I think we are ready to start. We're almost there to finish with this information day. So without wasting any more of your time, I think our next presenter, Ms. Rakoma, can just go ahead. I think he's going to be talking about a very important topic, the issue of smallholder broiler producers. This is something that I think also the industry has showed an interest in terms of seeing more of these, producers coming through. But of course, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to ensure that we are getting to that. Also through the poultry master plan, for those that are, are aware of it at least, or are somehow involved in it. There's a lot of work that is being pushed, but there's still a lot of challenges, debates and all around that. So hopefully from this presentation, we will be able to get to, understand at least some of those issues that needs to be sorted out. The bottlenecks are gonna be, presented on. I'm certainly looking forward to this. Ms. Rakoma, let me give you the platform. We have the next 20 minutes for you to bring us through to these challenges faced by smallholder broilers, and then we will take the discussions from a bit later on, and then of course we will be able to be to continue. Or perhaps I think let's just give the colleagues more 2 minutes. I'm getting some notifications that we still have a bit of lower numbers. Let's just give them 2 minutes until, let's say, 12 o'clock, and then we start from 12 o'clock. I hope that's fine with your colleagues.
Enda, motho o go present o go fara.
Colleagues, I'm not sure how many of us have managed to get back, but Mr. Rambam will let us know if we are still very few, but I think we should progress. The other colleagues will join us with presentation. Ms. Rakoma, I think you are already here because you have already presented at least your presentation is here. You can go ahead with the presentation. Thank you.
Chair, apologies. We are still trying to get
colleagues,
the next
let's just give
presenter.
our presenter some few minutes. She's experiencing some technicalities, and some of us can you just give her some time, and then hopefully this is going to be sorted out. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for my delay. I had some technical issues due to load shedding. Can I continue, Chair?
Yes, please, Ms. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning once more. Good afternoon once more. I'm Maphate Rosina Rakoma, a farmer based in Limpopo, Polokwane, a village called Ramaboy. I'm a smallholder farmer, a broiler producer farmer. Today's topic will be on challenges faced by smallholder farmer in the broiler section, but they affect almost everyone who's in the poultry industry. Smallholder farmer, we go through a lot of challenges which hinders our production on daily basis. Some of these challenges that we face are lack of government and institutional support, market access, the disease outbreaks that we always have on a yearly basis. Those are some of the challenges that we face on daily basis. Can we move to the next slide, please? The first challenge that we encounter is access to quality input. If you don't have quality input, it means also your product is going to be of lower quality. And if you have something that is of lower quality, you will never meet the market demands, meaning that your product will never be of the good standard for the market that you want to sell your product on. The first one is high quality feed. High quality feed is a very important factor in our production. High quality feed is categorized. We have different types of feed, which are categorized by the protein content that we get in that certain feed. A feed, when we say a feed is of high quality, when we say a feed is of high quality, it's any feed that has a protein content from 280 to 180. 280 being starter, 200 being grower, and 180 being a finisher. And this feed is very important. It's very expensive for us smallholder farmers to afford. Most of them, they range around 500 per bag, or 50 kg to 400 if you are very far from the the silos where they produce the feed. So it's very, very difficult for us as smallholder farmers to afford the high quality feed. Then the veterinary service, that one we all know that the veterinary services in our sector is very limited. We don't have access to these veterinary services. You may find that there's one veterinary doctor around Polokwane. This person must service all the centers of Department of Agriculture, maybe around 5 to 6 centers of Department of Agriculture within that area, of which is very difficult for the person to accommodate everyone. So it's very difficult for us as smallholder farmers to have access to veterinary services. The quality breeding stock, this one is very, very important. This one is very, very important because us as smallholder farmers, we never, ever have a chance to get A grade chicks. We usually get B, C, and D. And whenever you get A grade, it will just be by lucky for you to get A grade chicks. So it's very, very difficult for us for the breeding stock that are of high quality. Now we are faced with the problem of H7, avian flu H7 outbreak, which affects us. I think it's from October last year up until now. We're still struggling to get good quality chicks. So you can imagine from December, the festive season, we did not sell. Even now we are going to Easter, we can't sell because we cannot get or we cannot find a quality breeding stock. Can we move to the next slide? Lack of support and resources. Limited education. This one also is very, very crucial because I see a lot of farmers, they are coming into this industry as their hobby instead of treating it as a business. So if you're going to use your money as a farmer to start a business, you must have the basic knowledge. You must have the educational background of that industry that you want to start your business in. So sometimes our department fails us because we do not have proper workshops whereby our smallholder farmers, they can attend, they can inquire knowledge, and they can be equipped with relevant knowledge about what's happening in the industry. Again, with us farmers not keeping up with the real-time data in the agricultural space. I mean, we need to know what the presenter of SAPA was presenting was very, very crucial for us as smallholder farmers. We must know where are we standing. Are we going to face the same problem when we go into a peak season again? Are we going to face the same challenge of having a shortage of chicks in the market? So we must keep up with the real-time data so that we know what's happening. We know what we must do in order to keep our businesses up. The financial assistance. The financial assistance, this one sometimes I feel like it needs a proper education because it goes back to compliances. If you don't comply, you will never get grants or access to funds from the banks. When I'm talking about compliances, I'm talking about you as a farmer complying with CIPC. Did you register your business? That one is the first one. The second one, do you comply with SARS? Do you pay tax? Do you have are you a GAP certified farmer now? Because if you're not a GAP certified farmer, this will hinder you from getting some of your produces into the formal market. And then the technical assistant. The technical assistant, it goes back again to keeping up with the real-time data in the agricultural space. I mean, we need to know that we have working load shading, we are moving into a technological things are done in a form in you know the weight. But I would say technical assistance. This one we need to move from doing our things traditionally. We need to move our things doing them traditionally in order for us to keep up with what the market wants. Can we move to the next slide? Market access challenges, limited market information. This goes back to compliances. There was a hand by one of the farmers saying that these big companies, they do not want to consider us because, hey, we don't know what's happening and stuff like that. But knowing what is it that you need to do or have in order for us to provide our produces to this formal markets, it's very crucial. Like I said, you need to be a GAP certified farm. When we talk about a GAP certified farmer, we are meaning good agricultural practices, because mind you, this whatever that we are going to produce is going to be consumed by households. So if something happens to one of our people, then it goes back to where did you source your produces, and it goes back to the farmer where they source their produces. So you see, you need to comply in order for us to have, in order for this formal market to take our produces. So with this one of limited market information, we need those workshops whereby we'll have the representative, let's say from the department, where they will teach us how to be a GAP certified farmer, again, to have water rights, those kind of things, to be compliances with all the stakeholders. So that's what limits us to have market information. The transportation issue. My project is based in a deep rural area whereby during a rainy season is not accessible. So you can imagine I'm having stock at the farm and I cannot access the market due to poor roads and infrastructure in that area. And mind you, I'm just a smallholder farmer who cannot fix the roads and infrastructure so that my customers can access my produces. So you can see some of the things, they are beyond our control. So we need intervention from our municipalities, from not only from Department of Agriculture, but from our municipalities, from our provincial stakeholders. Everyone must be involved so that we can run our businesses smoothly. The market linkages. The market linkages, unfortunately, with us, the broiler producers, is a bit difficult for us to access those formal markets. Mind you, they will tell you if you want to take your produce, like your live chickens, you want to take them to a slaughterhouse, a slaughterhouse, you need to have a certain capacity, and that a slaughterhouse must be within a certain radius. You cannot transport chickens from Limpopo to a slaughterhouse that is in Villa or is in Pretoria. So you will be against SAP, not SACP. They will tell you about, hey, you cannot transport your chickens this far, one of which is going to affect us. So it's very, very disadvantaging for us to be linked to the formal market. We only survive with the informal market where we sell our produces, and that hinders us from growing. We will forever be the smallholder farmers because of some of these issues that we face on daily basis. Can we move to the next slide? The impact of disease outbreak. This one is very, very important. This one, you know, last year I was unable to sell my chick. I was unable to sell because we never had chicks. Around from October, the supplier that I was buying from, they just had to cut us out because we are just smallholder farmers. They were catering the commercial ones because of the avian flu outbreak. So you can imagine from October till today without chickens, and my production is my sole income generator. There are things, the overheads that I have to pay at the farm, but without any production, without any sales at the farm, then it means I have to go out there, ask for someone for money so that I can pay for those the overheads. I need to pay electricity, I need to pay the workers, I need to pay water. But without any sales, I mean, there's no way I can run that farm successful. So it's very, very important. It's very, very, very difficult for us to as smallholder farmers to deal with the disease outbreaks. Then also the mortalities. Usually the mortalities is caused by the poor quality chicks. If you can get the B and C and D grades, you know you're going to have higher mortalities, not because you are not aware of what you are doing, but because what the inputs that you are using are of poor quality. Then they will do what? They will affect your production. You end up having mortalities as high as 10%. So it's very difficult for us as smallholder producers to produce while we have these disease outbreaks. It affects us really bad. Can we move to the next slide? So the solutions to all these challenges, I think the Department of Agriculture, they do play their part, but in some cases, I think they are lacking because we do have extension officers that we work hand in hand with them. But I feel like the extension officers, they are more into saying this is the procedure that you have to run your business. Mind you, that we don't have a memo whereby you say you place the chicks, the steps. Even if you have all those steps, but still because we are dealing with living things, something might happen. So we need someone with experience with the chicks. We don't just need an extension officer that knows, well, okay, we have chicks, they own chicks, and then that's it. Then you have to raise them like this. We need someone to say, okay, but on arrival, this kind of chicks, they're going to give you a problem. By just mere looking at those chicks, the person who's been will be assisting you will say, no, these chicks, they're going to give you a problem. Let's go back and talk to the hatchery, the person where you bought your chicks or whatever, your feed and stuff. Most of our farmers, they just know, okay, you just place the chicks and then they will grow. You give them feed on this day and then, but you realize, well, after 14 days, most of our farmers, they start to experience mortalities. The chicks, they are not growing. They were scammed by getting the wrong chicks, like the crocals that they were sexed when in the layer hatchery. So you see, well, those are some of the problems. We need people, the technical advisors. When I'm talking about the technical advisors, I mean someone who knows what's happening on the ground. Someone who will come and say, you know what, this is a problem. This one we cannot ignore. Let's do this and that. Our extension officers, they will just tell you about the workshops, where the workshops will be held, then about the funding that are available. That's what they do. But in the challenges that we face on day to day is very, very difficult for you can share them with your extension officer, because you find sometimes they are clueless of what's happening. You may tell them, or the chicks think they are not broiler chicks on arrival, because I know I've been dealing with chicks. But as an extension officer, they will say, no, I might just see features of broiler. Let's just wait for 7 days. Then after 7 days, then we'll see what's happening. Then mind you, when you be feeding them those chicks from day 1 up until day 7, waiting for them to see if indeed these are broiler chicks, I'm losing time, money, and everything. So it's very, very difficult for us as smallholder farmers to penetrate the market. So we are pleading with Department of Agriculture just to see what they can do. Also with SAPA. SAPA, Minister Patel, I think last year around August, he mentioned the issue of saying we are doing the master plan. Then after, because we are hit by this outbreak, then we'll have to source our chickens out of South Africa. We must import chickens from out of South Africa for a year. I think he said it's for a year. But now it's more than a year. Those people being supplying us with those with the chickens. So it's very difficult for us. SAPA, try to talk to the DTI so that they can manage the import quotas, the import tariffs. They must be in place so that you can protect us as smallholder farmers. You are the last hope, SAPA, for us to speak to those one in charge to say, no man, but you are killing our industry. You are killing the smallholder farmers. They are not growing. We are not growing because of these issues of having imports coming in our country, chickens coming in our country at a lowest price. You can imagine a carcass weight of a whole body being sold around 28 rand, of which is not even close to the production cost of producing that one chicken. So obviously, whoever that needs chicken on that time will go for that 28 rand chicken. They will never come to us and buy from us in larger quantities. The only people who support us are the household. And mind you, the household, they can only buy 10, 20, 15, 30, of which is making it difficult for us to grow. We need a constant market whereby we can supply our chickens. If I can produce 1,000, I know that with this 1,000 that I have produced, they are growing somewhere. But if they can stay in my chicken house for more than a week, then it means I'm losing, I'm running at a loss. Then it means I'm not going to grow at any time soon. So SAPA, please try to talk to DTI, try to talk to Department of Agriculture. We know we are building a good relationship with those EU countries, but sometimes you must think of us as smallholder farmers. We need you to protect us, because no one is going to protect us as smallholder farmers. I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Madam. That was absolutely, clear for everyone to see. I think the reaction from this platform, it shows how much of of a clear idea, or at least a presentation you just gave us was. And I'm hopefully that this is definitely not going to be falling on the deaf hands. Sorry, he is. I'm not sure if Dr. Balarane is still with us, but I think it talks to some of the issues that they are trying to do, at least from the ag part of things. So colleagues, I will give you some time to comment, for comments, and then some questions, of course. But just before that happens, also have some bit of comments as far as some of the issues that our farmer just mentioned. Recently, I've been on the roadshow with some couple of colleagues talking to issues of information. It's saddening to see that, for instance, in the space of grains, you will find somebody that is farming on around, let's say, 400 hectares. But when you're to talk into discussions with them, you find out that they have absolutely no links whatsoever with the colleagues that are talking to them, at least at the district level. They do not understand a lot of very basic things. If they do, they have to dig that by themselves. They are seeing a lack of contact between them and the people that should be assisting them, at least with the very basic information. The issue of specialization on certain commodities, it is coming up a lot. Like the lady is mentioning that the issue of having someone that can talk about basic things, but there needs to be a very specific issues, in terms of saying from the get-go that this is a product that might not be suitable for A, B, and C because of C and D. So let's try to get to such. But I think we're talking about this now. It's leading to such, and I'm happy that I know we're talking about. But of course, this is not issue that can be sorted out in over a day. But I feel like we are able to talk about at this stage, and that is going to lead to something. Colleagues, I'm going to give you some time to talk. We are quite in the period of us discussing this, and of course some questions. I will give you the platform for those that have comments and also questions first. We'll take 4 as usual, and then from there we will see how many we can have. Are there any hands, Mr. Rambau, from your end?
Not yet, Chair.
Not yet, Chair. Okay, no, thanks. I think in the absence of that, then let me just prolong this for a second. I see, I think one has just popped up. You know, there's one thing that we are realizing with time. For instance, a lot of us anticipated that there was going to be and more of an uptake of produce, that is poultry, from the smallholder farmers, given that there was an issue in terms of the supply after the commercial players were impacted negatively by the avian influenza. So this, for some reason, there were a couple of issues that we needed to take into account for this. For instance, smallholder farmers, they tend to not have the equipment, for instance, to keep that biosecurity, because at this stage, biosecurity measures are the main, protection against the influenza, which is something that sometimes even for commercial farmers is not an airtight kind of a measure. So that is one thing. As a result, that uptake of products from smallholder farmers being channeled towards the commercial market was not there, because remember, if the commercial farmer can be so impacted to the scale that we've seen last year, how much more was that going to be an issue, for smallholder farmers? But I think, again, that's something that, whenever looking at this in terms of, how we can put products from smallholder farmers to here, and of course, the issue of having proper linkages to market, I think is something that, again, is very crucial. But I think since Kumbu, if was here, that's one of these specialty from her division. Ms. Kato, can you take the other hand that I saw, if he's still around?
Oh, thank you, Chair. There's a hand from Castings and also Kosi. Then, yeah. So, Castings, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity once again. Okay, the lady that gave this last presentation, I thank you very much. She has highlighted quite a few things. And believe it or not, most of the stuff is universally across all spheres of agriculture, whether it's crop farming or whatever. If you take the one which is biosecurity, it's natural causes. So we're looking at doing the vaccinations and all of that. But we also know there's also a safety and security issue where vandalism and theft is concerned. So there is also a very big cost outlay for the farmers, and especially in the rural areas where a hit and run is quick and your farm is not really secured. So you got to look at certain security, perimeter security. You got to look at maybe even electric fencing. There's a lot of things, online, offline monitoring, which is costly. And if you do know about it, it's there. But how do we get access to it? Because as small-scale farmers or rural farmers, those people, they're not really first clued up about that part of the technology that's utilized to protect the assets. And then also, if it's available, we in the budget must cater for it. And another thing that you also mentioned was very nice is a certification. And in certification, again, we're going right across the board. Like what say also that I'm affiliated to, we do the organic farming certification. I am based really in Cape Town on the False Bay coastal area. I am right next to what we call the PHA, the Philippi Horticultural Area. And the Philippi Horticultural Area is a multi-industry. There's broiler farmers, egg farmers, as well as crop farmers. And on a daily basis, we harvest and send about 60 to 70% of the fresh produce for Western Cape through the Philippi market. So for you to be in the market from either local or provincial or national, there's certifications, there's certain government regulations, and it's all, like we say, the GAP certification. But once again, money, speed, nothing else. You cannot get any certification if you haven't got the bucks to push that certification processes. So even though we as an organization, PGS, which is Participatory Guarantee Services in the certification of organics, are going around on the local, we cannot give certification to these farmers because the certification must come from national and from international organized bodies. So again, what is the major holdup? It is the support services from agriculture, and agriculture is doing a lot. Yabami is doing a lot. But I mean, if you guys would just read the latest edition, the last month's edition of Mzansi for Food from Mzansi, I've got an editorial in there about the pesky voucher, how the conflict the pesky voucher is caused in the local community as well as the local farmers. So again, challenges are out there. The most important thing that we need to do is get the communication strategies in place. Our extension officers should be really out there working with the local farmers and to bring them up. And there should be what we call levels. So you level up every time. It's like in the industry, if you are working in like in construction and you're on a level 1, you got to be put on a road where you got to be going in like 2 years time to level 2, level 3, level 4, so that you can go and play with the big players. So if the Department of Agriculture is out there doing sterling work, I would say that there is still room for improvement. So again, reaching out, keeping the communication going, doing your road shows, doing your workshops, that is brilliant. But again, also, when on the timeline is there the person that is being allocated and given the delegated to pull through the thing and to deliver on it. And also, we know where we are going. There is markets in our industry. There are markets and there are seasons. So we cannot work to a policy of a government official or a department. We work according to what the nature is telling us. When it's winter, what we plant in winter. When it's summer, when we raise certain chickens, whether it's broilers, whether it's quail, whether it's whatever, that is how we are dictated to. So we need to find a common ground and common space to discuss things and come to a point and then move on it, because implementation is much more important than discussion. And I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. That is very much appreciated. I think he is raising up quite some critical issues. And I'm also glad that you mentioned the issue of the challenges that are very universal, because I was just looking at some of the developments. If you are looking into related to the avian influenza, for instance, countries like Cambodia recent days, as of this year, I think it was maybe 6 weeks ago, they have been going through some difficulties, particularly with this, both in humans to a lesser degree, and of course they are wild birds. Then the US is again and Canada, I think they are also going to this difficulty. It doesn't matter how skill you're operating into some of these issues, as long as you are a farmer, they're gonna be an issue. Just that all we are saying is just there needs to be a bit of universally kind of access to things, and that's what we're all pushing for. Kato, I think there was a second.
Yeah, this is a hand from Kosi.
Okay, all right. Can you get the second hand, please? Don't forget to mute your mics, colleagues. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone and good day. My name is Kosi. Yeah, it's from the lady who was presenting, the last presenter. I think it's Katu. Yeah, I was so interested in the presentation because what she was saying, it's really true, especially when I've experienced it. I'm just new in the farming, but doing the broiler chicken. But then with the willingness, which I will go far with us, but the struggle is to get the supply. So I went out just to look for people who I can supply. I was approaching mostly the Indian shops. What I've noticed there, they told me they have the chickens there. I think what I remember, they had 2 chickens we are sold by 100 rand and even 75 rand. So they were saying mine are too expensive. They cannot buy and they cannot assist me. So yeah, actually we are struggling in that, because sometimes you ask yourself, where did they get those chickens that can be 75 rand in the bulk? So yeah, and then I think on my side also I need someone who can advise me with how best can I market my chickens. That is all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Miss. Yeah, I think that is noted. Yeah, I think that the issue of markets is always going to be a problem, and this cut across all commodities. And yeah, but of course there have to be procedures that needs to be followed. They have to be, for instance, you're talking about directly, talking to certain potential markets. That on its own, it has some kind of complications. For instance, if you're getting to someone that has quite an access to this product, as a farmer, you're always gonna not get probably at least 80% of chances, you're not going to get the price that you wanted, because especially in the case of poultry, for instance, they tend to be not a standardized, price as you would do maybe for maize, to go for likes of Safex, and then you can check what is the baseline, or at least how to think about pricing your product. So it is always going to be a difficult one. But I think another issue is the understanding of the market, or at least the surrounding of your production. Or for instance, if you are to look into the broiler producers that are in Eastern Cape compared to those that are in Gauteng, small to a larger degree, you will realize quite a very interesting trend in terms of them being exposed to the market. What markets, it talks to a number of things, that there's a population that is available, then that is the number, and then of course the economic activities, how many people that can be able to afford that. So those are some of the things that we will sort of talk to the issues of the prices, which is why you would see a similar product, both in quality and everything, but it's sold at a different areas at a different price. But I think it's clear that there has to be in a communication, proper communications across the relevant stakeholders, as the other previous speaker had said, from the farmer in Western Cape. That is one thing that I'm taking out of this. It has been raised for relatively some time now. It's unfortunate that we don't seem to be getting it right, but I hope that because of these engagements, it's gonna lead to some sort of a cohesion, at least some connection between there, and then of course it leads to a better industry. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, this is not something that you can just sort out in one few of these engagements. But let's not despair, colleagues. Let's try to make sure that we don't give up on this, and then of course we will somehow manage to get through. But one thing that I also want to add, for those that are generally interested in this, there is a report that was done by the smallholder unit guys. They were doing a baseline on the broiler poultry industry. It is available online, I believe, Katu. That should be on the line. I think colleagues can also get it on request if one, but I think it's the easiest part is just go to online, the NAMC website. It is there. It gives some of the issues that have been identified that can also a bit assist, and then also look into the poultry master plan itself. You can see, the ambiguities somewhere there, the challenges that we're trying to sort, and also some of the clashes in all this. I think that will probably, help to put some light on some of this. But of course, we need to get to the communication part of things. I think we're moving on to the time where we can be able to just bring in our closing, remarks. We have a few seconds to that.
Okay.
Before, so, yes, sir.
Can there's the last one? Can we take the last one from Sizwe?
Sizwe,
the last one from Sizwe.
Presentation, right?
No, it's just a question.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. No problem. Go ahead, Sizwe, please. You are muted, Sizwe. Unmute your mic and then you can speak. Katu, can you hear the colleague? I'm not sure if it's my network again. Can you hear from your side?
No, there's nothing from my side. Yeah. It seems like he is unmuted now. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you. Come through.
It seems like he's struggling. I cannot hear him from my side.
Yeah.
Maybe you can just type it on the chat box.
Yeah. In the interest of time, Susan, you can just put your question. Perhaps we can just have a follow up on that. I mean, people can be still able to just, at least for the next few. be able to type at least right and time. With that being said, colleagues, let me give this time to the closure first. I would like to just thank everyone for being at least with us. We are quite in the severely rural areas and remote, like farms somewhere across the country. It is really a nightmare to get access to the network. And then, of course, the speakers that have managed to provide us with the inputs and also the insights. We are really appreciative of that. Please do, if there are any of these the coming days, when we do ask you to join us, please do so. We really appreciate your time and, of course, the insights that you put through. And, of course, the colleagues that are here, please make sure that you are following some of the websites and the links that are going to be shared with you, and of course the presentation are going to be shared with you. Mr.
Sorry, sir.
Sorry,
sir, can I come in?
Okay, do please.
There was a hand from the presenter. I think maybe she wanted to clarify some of the issues there.
No problem. Let's give her just a minute, please. Go ahead before we close.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add on what Chair was saying about the market. The informal market is just you just price your chickens based on what the demand, the supply, and the quantity that you have. I mean, there is no standard that we can say we will put the price based on that. The quantity, if I produce 1,000 chickens, the price of my chicken will never be the same as someone who's producing 100 chickens. So I think sometimes the farmers, they confuse this. If I can sell my chickens at 75 rand per chicken, then the one who's producing 100 chickens, they will never sell their chickens at 75 rand because of the cost and everything that they have incurred. I produce 1,000 chickens. I pay one worker to take care of that. My overhead cost, they will be covered on that 1,000. And then with that one who's producing 100, the overhead cost might be a little bit too high. So the person must end up doing what? Increasing their prices. So in terms of informal market, when we sell our chickens, it's just how the demand, supply, and your quantity works. It's just you play around that. You don't have to go to ShopRite to check the prices and what, and then you say, because the customers, they buy chicken, a fresh chicken at ShopRite at around 50 rand, then I'll sell my chicken at 45 rand. You just take what the demand, the supply, the quantity, and the cost that you have incurred to raise your chickens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. That is really appreciated. Colleagues, without keeping you longer than you should, here, Mr. Bernard, I'm going to give you this period to do the closing remarks, and then we can be adjourned after that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I would like to confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As we come to conclusion of today's information session, I would really like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you. I really appreciate your participation, and also thank the organizers, particularly Communication and Smallholder Market Access Team, Daniel and Katuchero, for making this possible. Secondly, I would like to thank all the speakers, particularly Chair Tabile from NAMC for really carrying out through these discussions, and also thank Ms. Notlantla for providing valuable insights into what NAMC does, including appreciating the stakeholders along the value chain for poultry, and also thank Dr. Abongile from SAPA for really providing an insightful update on avian influenza. He really covered the economic impact of avian influenza, focusing on domestic and international implications. He presented how the price moved, the cost of the feed, and he also really touched base on the discussions that are ongoing around the vaccination. And he also gave us an estimation on how long they will take to recover from these impacts of avian influenza. And interestingly, audience also engaged these discussions by raising issue of vaccination eligibility that are ongoing, and then they also inquired about the communication strategies that will be used to communicate these developments. And they also raised the issue of the need of support, because they really need support from extension service, technical and financial support, which is well noted. Moving forward, I would like to thank Dr. Romito from ARC. He really shared the details on testing procedures, emphasizing the importance of biosecurity, access control, and vaccination, which audience also expressed their desire for more physical information sharing platform like this, which he mentioned that these kind of engagements are ongoing on the ground, which is really appreciated. You can see that stakeholders are really doing their work as mandated. Moving forward, I would like to thank Dr. Grietjie Klerk from Darald. She really gave a good presentation by outlining the control measures in poultry diseases, defining the farming poultry, giving us the details regarding the Animal Disease Act and veterinary services. And she also really take us through the characterization of avian influenza. We know the high and low pathogenic viruses now, also delve into history of South African outbreaks of this kind of disease. She also gave the implications of vaccination. We know that vaccination doesn't really mean that we are really preventing the infection, but we're just protecting against the virus. So audiences who also engaged here in terms of the development of the vaccine, which we really need to be patient on this one, because she mentioned that this process is a rigorous process that really takes time to ensure that the vaccine that is put out on the market is really safe. And Dr. Abongile also mentioned that there are ongoing conversations or engagements regarding the vaccination for this kind of diseases. Maybe coming to the end, I would like to thank Mr. Maphate, Rosina, Rakoma from farming with Maphate. She delved into the challenges of smallholder farmers or broilers that face. She touched on the access of quality feed, services, and the quality of breed stock. The main issues or the main themes that came out of this presentation were as follows. She mentioned the limited education. I won't touch on all of them because I think all the participants were very engaging, but the most prevailing challenge here is compliance and certification, because farmers really need to comply with GAP, which really need financing, which is a challenge for most of the farmers. And the load shedding is also an issue, and market access is also a big issue. We noted that this disease outbreak really disrupted the cash flow of many smallholder farmers, which take away their livelihoods. So we call for targeted interventions in these challenges. We call all the stakeholders to contribute to this support of smallholder farmers. So just to give a concluding statement is that all these stakeholders have mentioned the specialities and challenges in the aspects in their respective value chains or food systems, but we really need to look into how we engage or integrate our specialities, because as things stand, the issue of specialization is often not integrated, which means there are fragmented approaches to solving this issue. So I think we need to focus on one health approach where we focus on the interconnectedness of environment, human, and food source health, so that we can be able to address this issue of outbreak as they come. So with that being said, colleagues, I would like to say that your expertise and knowledge have enriched this information session. Therefore, I would like to think that this knowledge will empower many of the participants in making informed decisions in their poultry operations. And the National Agricultural Marketing Council remain committed to supporting the poultry industry and other connected stakeholders in these efforts. And subsequent to this engagement, we really encourage all of you to reach out if you seek or need assistance with regard to the aspects of the presentation that we're given today. With that being said, thank you again, colleagues, and I wish you have a productive week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. You do have a good one. Appreciate it. Cheers.